Ho, 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 ho. You win a game, you lose a game, you win a game, and you get it back. How about that? Wow. Okay. Had to take that one in. Sorry for the delay, folks. Like to come in and bring you the post game directly after the final score hits the scoreboard. But of course, there was a bit of a delay. Wanted to make sure that I got a good look at that. And there we go. Appreciate y'all being here at the Voice of College Football. How about that? Okay. Much to dive into concerning, of course, two excellent football games or two close football games. I would say one was a really good football game at Hard Rock Stadium in Miami, and Coral Gables, to be exact, in Miami wins and survives to go to 5-0 inexplicably 38-34, while with the other game, not the best of football games, but still close and still went down to the final play of the game. So we told you this was a really good Friday night of football, and we got two down to the wire, and we got two undefeated football teams that were able to escape at home. All right, welcome into the Voice of College Football. Most important thing I can tell you tonight, by far, it's not even close in any such way, is that the Amazon links in the description section of all the videos, including this one. Please, when you shop Amazon, use the link that we provide. It's completely instantaneous to you, transparent, does not cost you a penny, supports the channel. One way you can support the Voice of College Football financially and not spend a penny, please use the Amazon link. That is the most important thing I can say. Now to less important things. Miami defeated Virginia Tech 38-34. Wow. Okay. My thoughts before we get to a couple calls would be that, of course, Virginia Tech. Wow. You got a feel for Brent Pry. You got a feel for his team. They have already lost 3 football games. They expected to come into this game with an undefeated record if you look at the beginning of the season, because, of course, they were a 2-touchdown favorite against Vandy. They lost a home game as well against Rutgers at home. Not supposed to lose at Lane Stadium against a decent average football team. And they were able to get knocked out there in the fourth quarter after being completely outplayed by Rutgers. Okay, to Friday night. I am not surprised by Miami laying down and Miami almost losing. Not surprised by that at all. I did not have the guts to take Virginia Tech straight up. Certainly took them with all those points for sure. Even though our guy Steve Merrill said from Wager Talk said that Miami's like 3 touchdowns better, we of course took Virginia Tech and all those points. Man, just a great game, back and forth. I got home sometime in the third quarter, and ever since I got home, I have been running through the library recording of it on YouTube TV to catch up. So I watched every play, but I was been catching up, and then, of course, wanted to see that replay many times. So did the officials get it right? Well, it was really not explained by the officials after they called it a touchdown, reversed it, and then went back. No, they called it a touchdown on the field, and it looked like, shoot, all hell broke loose, and there were players all over the field, racing all over the field. And then, of course, they went to replay and went to review. So my interpretation of what happened is basically that, the play isn't dead. I don't know that we've seen anything quite like this. It initially reminded me of the Seattle Green Bay play on Monday night about 10 years ago. But shoot, compared to this, that was routine, because at least there was just a determination of possession on that play. There was just determination of possession. On this play, there was determination of, possession, which never clearly seemed to be a thing. And then also, who's laying out of bounds? Well, the Virginia Tech player that was battling for the football appeared to be in bounds, and the Miami player appeared to be out of bounds. And at some point, the Miami player is, his back and his backside are out of bounds, and he's got the football, and they're juggling it, and he somewhat has possession, but never has complete possession. So I'm waiting for full possession. And nobody really gets, of course, the ball never hit the ground. So the Virginia Tech player, and I think this was the initial ruling by the official, was that the Virginia Tech player finally wrestled away the football before it hit the ground, and it never did hit the ground. But then on the replay, that the Miami player who was holding the ball and keeping the ball from hitting the ground was laying out of bounds. So is it a dead ball at that point? Can you take a football away from a player who is out of bounds and you're in bounds and take it away from them? It's almost in slow motion what this would be. Throw a pass to the sideline, have the defensive back intercept it out of bounds. Let's say have 1 foot inbounds and 1 foot out of bounds, therefore simultaneously, therefore they're out of bounds. They catch the football, and immediately the offensive player snatches the ball away from them and they're inbounds. Are they inbounds with a fair catch, with a legal catch? No, I guess they're not, because I guess as soon as that ball is secured by a player out of bounds, the ball's out of bounds. That's how I'm coming up with that conclusion of that play. Regardless, Miami's 5-0. We, of course, set this ball game up on our Miami live stream on Wednesday night. Cam Underwood, State of the U. Congratulations, Cam. You are ecstatic right now, and understandably so. And sometimes really good playoff-bound, postseason-bound teams have to win these kind of games against teams that, let's face it, Virginia Tech's not that good of a football team. And Miami's got an extremely easy schedule. And for more coverage on Miami football, if you just want pure Miami talk, nonstop, and a lot of elation, head on over to the Miami channel. Our guys are over there. Brennan, Alex, Slim Shady Canes are over there breaking down the Miami football side of this and rejoicing. So if you want a party, go over to the Miami channel. My buddy George on the Renegade Report wanted to fire this up in case Miami lost. And so I'm guessing he's not firing up the live show because he had contacted me about halfway through the game, and actually I was out at the time, and he's like, if Miami gets upset, I want to go live. And I'm like, sure, go live, go to it. And I looked at the score. I thought, oh, Miami must be in trouble. Yeah, they're down 10. Okay, go live. Sure, have a big time, Florida State fans. And then I was catching up to the action, and I got there a little bit late. You guys had already seen it, but I was just about there, and I thought, he's asking for a code. He's asking for the code to start up the stream on the Florida State channel. So Virginia Tech, I'm waiting for the Hail Mary. I'm waiting for the play, even though it's already happened. I'm waiting in delay for the play that's going to, and I'm thinking, wow, they're not going to make it. They're not going to make it. But I know that they're going to score. Virginia Tech's going to score and win this game, right? And then comes the final play. And then I see that I'm looking as I am setting this up, as I am looking at the replays, I'm trying to get the Florida State show going. And I'm thinking, he's not going on. He's not going on. Why is he not going on? Why is he not going on? Well, they looked at it again. There you go. And then I had to verify it just because I thought, okay, did I see what I thought I saw? And did the conclusion come the same way? Because shoot, I shut it off initially after the first review seemed to go through and confirm the Virginia Tech touchdown. All right. That all said, Miami's 5-0. Should they be 5-0? They played a tougher schedule. They wouldn't be 5-0, but this is the schedule they play. And did they get, like, if they would have won that game, well, they did win the game. Miami, did they deserve it? Not entirely. But at the same time, did they not deserve to win? Well, yeah, you shouldn't play around with Virginia Tech if you're supposed to be a playoff team. But that is some game. Okay, let's not delay your calls any longer, but we will remind you the Amazon links in the description section of all the videos. When you shop on Amazon, please use the Amazon link. Thank you for doing that. Please like the video. Please subscribe. Please subscribe. I'll give you a second here. You don't want to miss a second, of course, of our analysis on our phone call. So I'll give you a second here. subscribe, like, Amazon link, copy that. There we go. I know I'm pissing people off when I do that. All right, let's get Will in here to talk Rutgers and Washington. Again, that went down to the final play. We can talk about that as well.
What's going on?
Hey, Mark.
How are you, Will?
Doing good. I have a friend here, One Scoop John.
One Scoop John. Oh, hey, look at that. Look at this. In the same room.
Mm-hmm.
How about it?
Yeah.
Look at this. It does my heart good when we've got two of our favorites in the same room.
Mark, I'm
That's
proud
awesome.
of you for doing the Amazon link.
Well, John, I can't quite hit your standard when it comes to promotions, but I'm going to do better. I'm going to do better.
Talking about the Tech Miami game, I feel like if it takes that long to review a call, it's not indisputable because they're disputing it for that long of a period.
Well, and it was called a touchdown on the field. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
That's the problem.
I'm fine if it stands one way or the other, but if it takes that long to make up your mind, just let it stand.
5-minute review.
Mm-hmm.
So the official didn't explain why, correct? He did not explain why. That was I don't know if you heard my explanation, but that's what I was coming up with in trying to determine why they would overturn what we saw on the replay.
Yeah, I think there might have been a couple words, but I don't really think they did a thorough job of explaining.
I did not think so either. And again, I don't know if you heard me, but my thought process was, okay, this is a ridiculous example, but this would make it more clear that yes, if the ball is intercepted by a defender, let's just say on the sideline, and he's simultaneously inbounds and out of bounds at the same time, he jumps up and he catches the ball and he lands out of bounds, inbounds at the same time, and then just standing there with the ball and just instantaneously, offensive player snatches the ball out of his hand and he's in bounds.
Yeah,
I guess the play was dead when the defender secured the football out of bounds.
Yeah, I will say this. We wouldn't be talking about any of this had they not called the fake field goal. Because without the fake field goal, then you're down by 1 and you can take it to field goal range and kick it in to win the game.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, if you go fake field goal, I don't think running it up the middle is the best way to do it. I think you got to do a pass to the left or the right.
Yeah, I was scurrying through this game so viciously to get to the end of it. I didn't really diagnose that. It was 4th and what? Do we know what?
3.
4th and 3. Yeah. Yeah, not the best of decisions there.
Mm-hmm. I think the clock management by Brett Pry, Mario was jealous of how bad his clock management was too.
That's tough to do as well, is make Mario look brilliant.
You gotta use all your timeouts to get as far as you can to them.
Yeah. I will say though, I mean, both teams, Virginia Tech, I was most surprised about. The quarterback and receiver play, and even line play. They were able to really, at times, hang in there for 5 seconds, 7 seconds. I was really impressed. That quarterback on Virginia Tech, I mean, he can sling a football, and it was out of bounds, but he shot one to the end zone 1 play prior or 2 plays prior. So it was good. It was good ball. I'm glad we chose tonight to hang out.
Yeah,
because we're Virginia Tech and whatever, but turned out to be a barn burner.
Absolutely. Very cool. Very cool. Yeah, so Miami, they have quite the clear path to an excellent season here. I'm not going to say necessarily undefeated, although they will be favored, you would think, in the rest of their games. They've got a date at Louisville a little bit later.
If they win out, I think them and Clemson, they look pretty even now. Just based on how Clemson's gotten better and Miami's kind of stagnated. What do you say?
Yeah, they're the two best teams. Albeit, let's see Louisville take on Notre Dame. See Louisville take on Miami in a few weeks. Louisville has only played really one football game against Georgia Tech. But those three are definitely way better than everybody else in the conference.
Yeah.
And my guess is that it's Miami and Clemson as the two best teams.
This is looking like a pretty solid year for Miami when I look at the schedule. They got Cal. That's a real tough opponent there. Then you have so Louisville. I'd say is the next.
Is it in Louisville?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, that'll be a good game.
Louisville. So that should be a solid game with Braum and what they're doing over there. Then you have Florida State, who's having a pretty serious down year. Duke could be interesting because Duke with Manny Diaz, I mean, they pulled out I think at least a respectable win against Northwestern. So those would be those I think could be tough for
They're
them.
going to Bobby Dodd too. Maybe that could trip them up.
Yeah, but to be knocked out of the ACC championship game, they probably can go 6-2 in the conference and still get to the conference championship game. Again, the Louisville game may be the tiebreaker.
Yeah, Darrell is asking a good question here. Why are we counting any game as an auto win for Miami? They almost lost to VT. Well, VT played out of their minds, and I don't think this is the same VT that you remember from previous years. I mean, they have a quarterback. They have they're no slouch.
Yeah, well, I think what we're going to see is somewhere in the middle. Meaning, you can't ring up any win. Like if we went through Miami's schedule, okay, and then we tried to determine, okay, what's a win for sure? And you guys just did it. The Cal game on the road coming up next week, going all the way to the West Coast against the Cal team that beat Auburn, that should have beaten Florida State. Louisville on the road, Florida State at home, rivalry game. Duke, Georgia Tech, Wake, Syracuse. No, that is not a good schedule. It's a horrible schedule. But to Darrell's point, yeah, it's college football. I posted on X just the other day all the double-digit underdogs that have won already this season. It's about 11 or 12 games. So, but Miami's not going to. They shouldn't lose multiples of these games, and they're sitting there undefeated right now. So only one down in the ACC, however. So they got 7 to go. So yeah, let's not. But they're in a good position. Let's put it that way.
For sure. Man, if you're Washington, you got to get a new kicker in the portal or something after that.
Yeah. Well, especially when you see you saw the field goal kicking in the Virginia in this Virginia Tech Miami game, and they were knocking out 56 and 58 yarders. Yeah, Washington is going to be in games where they need to win by a field goal. Like they're going to be in Big Ten slugfests. So yeah, I mean, totally.
Will, you gave me a thought there. If we're going to take this whole NFL or professional sports model to the nth degree, yeah, transfer portal mid-season, like a trading deadline kind of. Why don't we do that?
Sure.
Implement that, like November 1st. Get yourself a kicker. Get yourself, backup quarterback. Your quarterback got hurt.
Yeah, why not?
Why not? Yeah.
We're pretty much halfway there anyway.
The Miami of Ohio coach, a couple weeks into the season, accused Alabama of stealing their kicker anyway.
Dang, Chuck Martin.
Yes, he did.
All right. Mark, are you? I'm not that confident about my Irish if they can't pass it, but if they can't get the passing game going much. But I don't know if you made that pick already, but
did not make a pick on the game. I am surprised that I thought it would be a closer point spread.
I agree.
I think it was around 5. And when I got together with our guy Steve Merrill earlier on Thursday, he said it ballooned up to 6.5, and I thought it was going to go the other way. So people are putting money on Notre Dame. And actually, if you check out that segment, Steve said that his model has Notre Dame winning by double digits. It was.
I'm confident. I think the defense will play much better than they did than they did last year against Louisville. The offense I'm not as confident in as last season. But I do think that the defense will hopefully hold them to under 30.
That would be nice.
Yeah. Or maybe hopefully under 28.
I'm just wondering what's going on our Miami channel right now, because we continue to gain people. We're like 350 total, and they're having the party over there, folks. So just thinking, once again, if you just want to like jump through the roof and go crazy and celebrate, I'm just kind of the calm analyst here. So if you want to throw the party, join the guys on the Miami channel. But because we will talk Washington and Rutgers. It may take 2 hours before we get to it, because everybody will want to talk Washington. Because I really can't tell you much on the Washington and Rutgers game. I had it on another screen at the same time.
We were like flipping it every so often.
Because it just didn't seem that interesting, even though it was close.
Yeah, it's still cool though. Like Washington, Rutgers, USC, Wisconsin. Like,
that's cool.
I love these matchups every week.
I do too.
They're just new.
I do as well. I hate the realignment because of the demise of these traditional conferences, but what it has produced, and you know this as well as anyone, John, what have we been looking forward to in the Big Ten every season for the last sorry, Big Ten Western Division fans, because your champion has been fodder for the East. Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan, Penn State, Ohio State, Michigan. Those are the three games that count in the Big Ten. Those are the only three games anybody really needs to watch. Now you get all these really cool matchups.
Do you think that Wisconsin has a better chance of beating USC than Illinois over Penn State?
No. I like Illinois. I think Illinois is going to put up a fight.
All right, might have to take Illinois those points.
Dang.
Don't trust me for anything, guys. I don't like that pressure.
Yeah.
At the same time, YouTube premium members and Patreon members, you can cash in my pick, Steve Merrill, and so forth. So that's an oxymoron right now. I don't like the pressure, but sign up on our premium membership tier on Patreon and on YouTube. And we won't mention my record this year, but think of it this way. I've got a 40-year, 58%. Steve Merrill told me yesterday, Mark, you're crazy for trying to pick 50. He said, you're crazy for trying to have an accurate points against record by picking all those games that you do. He goes, you pick all the games? I said, yeah, all the top 25 games plus a few more, like 25 games a week. He goes, that's insane. He goes, just pick the games you're confident about. And I said, well, I've hit 58%. He's like, that's pretty incredible if you're picking all the games. And I said, yeah, I just like picking all the games. And he's like, I said, but not 58% this year. So actually, if I reach my norm, everyone, I'm going to do better than 58% of the rest of the year. So think of it that way. But glad you guys were able to get together tonight. And anything else?
No, just check out Mark's book that's coming up. Super excited for it.
Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
National champions.
It's right up my alley for sure.
And you two, as part of my launch team, I will give you some instructions here pretty soon as I hear back from the publishing company to give it a quick read and give a review to get us launched in the right direction. So, thanks, guys.
I do encourage everybody, if you plan to watch any part of Michigan, Minnesota for whatever reason, and you want to hang out with us after to debrief, we're going to be doing the Michigan postgame show with TJ and myself, and we take your calls. So that should be fun tomorrow. And the last week we went 6 hours because people kept contributing. People kept, joining the membership and kept contributing. We went 6 hours. So who knows?
I can't think. I just when I saw 9 points on that game, I just believe Michigan's. Maybe I'm just super confident that they'll just win the game. It's almost like an Iowa equation. Like when Iowa plays just about anyone in the old Big Ten West, I was always confident that they would win the game, but it could be by 3, it could be by 4, it could be by 2. Just that they'll make the right plays to win the game. But Michigan, That game, if you're going to just join John and the crew for post game, just keep in mind that thing might be over when everybody else is going to halftime.
Well, Mark, I think this is notable. We had Daniel House from Gophers Guru on Tuesday night, and he predicted 27-10 Michigan. And he's a Minnesota fan, so I think that kind of tells you where the winds might be blowing.
That sounds like a pretty good score. That's about where I'm at on that.
I went 34-10, but it just kind of somewhere in that realm.
Guys, I don't want to keep our other callers waiting too much, but before we let you go, John, give me a quick, and I know that you've addressed this many times on the Michigan channel, but give me a quick synopsis of Sharon Moore's handling of the quarterback situation and what you would like to it can't be a quick synopsis. It doesn't sound like it. or what your reasonable, optimistic expectations are out of that position the rest of the season.
So as to not hold up other callers, I'm going to say questionable. And you can hear more on Michigan football at the Voice of College Football. But yeah, no, I think Alex Orji will be the quarterback the rest of the season, and Minnesota will be used as a kind of a training ground to see how passing goes. Because USC's defenders, with the exception of Samaj Morgan on occasion, they were actually doing a really good job of covering the receivers. So with Colston Loveland back from injury, who is probably the best at getting separation out of anybody on the team, 6'5", he just has that it factor that the others don't. You combine that with Minnesota's defense not being as good, and hopefully Alex Orji can get to 100 passing yards. I think we're all just hoping for that, and we'll have a parade if he gets to 100 passing yards.
Absolutely, guys. It was great to see you, John. Of course, thank you so much for all that you do on the Michigan channel. You guys are phenomenal. Will, good to see you. Good luck to the Irish.
Thank you, Mark.
On Peacock, I believe.
Yeah, I hate that going on Peacock, but it is what it is.
Got to pony up that $5, I guess.
Yeah. Irish fans, Buckeye fans have to both do that on Saturday. All right, guys. I appreciate it. See ya. We'll get to you, Darrell, in 2 seconds. Just want to, hey, if you believe in conspiracy theories, this is one from Trojan Fight. Think about this. Miami loses this game. Basically, we're looking at Louisville going to Notre Dame and probably losing tomorrow night. The ACC, everybody's got a loss. And sure, there's going to be a champion to make the playoff. Of course, it doesn't matter what the records are. But largely, the conference is going to be ignored for the rest of the season and be insignificant and basically treated and viewed as a junior high league, a rec league. Miami is the one team that's keeping national interest at this point. We got Darrell MVP here. Thank you for waiting, sir.
No problem. Good to see a Michigan fan and a Notre Dame fan hang out in the same place. It's as common as seeing Bigfoot or our politicians agree on anything these days.
It is possible.
Yes, it is. Mark, I don't know what happened at the end of the game. I still don't know if he caught the ball or anything. But, Mark, the word's indisputable, I guess, is disputed nowadays, which is ironic. I don't know what happened, and I don't think anyone knew what happened because it took 2 hours, it felt like, to figure it out. So just let the call on the field stand. That's my big concern. I don't know if it was a catch or wasn't a catch. But either way, it should have stand, let the game end, and just live with the result. Miami shouldn't have been in that position to where a Hail Mary could have lost them the game.
Because if they had, which they did, overturn that call, they should be explaining to us why the call was overturned, and I think they did a poor job of that. So yes, either the call's confirmed or it's overturned clearly and they give reasoning for that, or yes, it's disputed or there's indisputable evidence, which we did not see, and they opted for the middle ground of we're turning over the call. But yes, I don't know if you heard my explanation off the top of the show, but that's the only thing I can come up with. And I don't know if that's verified by the rules, but if a
Right. I heard you.
secures the ball out and he's out of bounds, that the play's dead and somebody else can't take it away from him.
Right. But I don't know when that player that was out of bounds touched the ball. I don't know if there was enough evidence to say he touched the ball when he was out of bounds or he was in bounds going out of bounds. I don't know. And I don't think they know. That's my issue. Is I don't think there was enough evidence to piece together all the pieces necessary to say this is exactly what happened, which I thought was what indisputable meant. Because I honestly don't know who for Virginia Tech caught the ball. I thought it was number 9 who caught the ball for Virginia Tech, the guy in the middle there. It could have been on the guy in the back who fell out of bounds, though. I'm not sure. And my point is if we're not 100% or 95% sure, and we're just thinking, well, it's more likely, it's probably this, then I don't think that should live up to the standard. I think it should be almost definite, like 95% sure at a bare minimum, if we're doing undisputable.
Yeah, it's not indisputable.
Right. Well, then by according to the letter of the law, that was the wrong call they made, because it has to be indisputable video evidence. If it's not indisputable, then they needed to stand with the call on the field.
My point is that they need to clearly state why they overturned the play.
Exactly. I agree with you. And if they came out with an explanation, I would feel better. But I think that's part of the frustration that people are having as well. I just also frustrated with the fact that they called one thing, then they thought they had enough evidence to change it. That's just my issue with it. Because nowadays we're trying to get to the right call and we're messing up the game flow and all that stuff and the product on the field. But Mark, did you watch the last play of the Washington-Rutgers game? Just the last play.
The kick?
Yes, the last play.
Yes.
You saw the entire game then. That's all that you needed to see. Okay. Washington kicker. Okay, here's the stat for the night for it. 1 for 4, Mark. 1 for 4 with a long of 22 yards.
So he hit the extra point, basically, the extra point field goal length. And then the other ones were, I'm guessing he's not trying to these 60-yard field goals. They were pretty short kicks.
Yeah, I can find the exact distance somewhere, but yeah, they weren't like 60, 70-yard bombs out there, like 40, 50-yarders from my recollection.
I know that it was bad enough that the announcers were talking about not even trying a field goal, but going for a Hail Mary. And when they had 6 seconds left in the game, I'm thinking, you got Will Rogers at quarterback. He knows what he's doing. You got to get 5 or 6 yards closer. I don't care how bad he's missed these field goals. That's a better chance of making, what did it turn out to be, a 50-yard field goal versus a 55-yard field goal versus trying to make a Hail Mary. Although, if they would have been watching what was going on a half hour earlier or just minutes earlier in Miami, then I guess there is that possibility. But right. I think they still made the right decision.
Right. The other field goals was 37 and 42 yards, Mark.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why Washington lost the football game. They don't have a kicker that can kick field goals in this game. You make 2 of those, you win the game. You make 1 of them, you're tied. And all those field goals should be makeable.
Same thing happened to Cal last Saturday, or Florida State would be 0-4.
Oh, that would be so funny, Mark. Florida State 0-4. Oh, man. That, by the way, that was funny. Florida State fans so bad they're just rooting for other teams to lose. That's good to see a fan base be humbled as much as they have. But Mark, I got to ask you about the biggest game tomorrow, Georgia versus Alabama.
Woo. Yeah.
First off, isn't that great just to say that? Georgia has won 42 straight regular season games, Mark. The all-time record is 45. Do you think Georgia's going to break that record?
Well, sometime in the next few weeks, they've got Texas on the road and Ole Miss on the road. I would bet.
They play Auburn and Mississippi State as their next 2 opponents.
Okay.
And then after that, to break it, it's number 1 Texas.
Okay. So it comes down to this game not to at least tie the record. I've been really thinking about Bama being the winner of this game. That's where my lean has been.
I got that. Now,
I'm going to bet against Georgia
Georgia is favored to win this game, right?
by like 2 points. Yes.
But they're still favored at Bryant-Denny Stadium, which is probably the first time in forever.
They're considered the better team. Yep.
Right. And which is amazing because, everybody was telling me after the Kentucky game that Georgia's terrible. They might not even make the playoffs. They're horrendous, but yet they're favored over Alabama. Mark, my theory for this game is for Alabama, this game almost means nothing because of how easy their schedule is. For Georgia, this game means a lot because they still have to play Texas, Ole Miss, and Tennessee. There's a outside shot of Georgia going 8-4. Like, it's very unlikely because of how great an elite Georgia is, but it's not inconceivable.
It would have made the season much more exciting, or this weekend more exciting as well, had Georgia lost to Kentucky. And if they already had that one loss right now, then wow. Then we're talking about desperation mode.
Right. I'm just trying to figure out a reason because this is the downside to the 12-team playoff is this game, in the grand scheme of things, probably only means who's going to the SEC championship game. But that is interesting, Mark. If Georgia goes 9-3, do you think they make the playoffs with how difficult their schedule is?
If they have close losses, yeah.
I don't see them getting blown out by anybody.
Well, let's think about this. Let's say they lose by a field goal, generally a one-score game, last minute kind of game. In all three of these losses that are the most likely losses on the road, Ole Miss, Alabama, and Texas. So their best win would be Tennessee, correct? So they would have a Tennessee win, and they would also have a win against, let's see, Auburn's horrible. Florida, it's Tennessee. Basically, they've got a win against Tennessee and Clemson.
Yeah, those are two good wins.
They're good wins, but other teams are going to have those kind of wins.
Well, Clemson might win the ACC.
Sure.
And Tennessee could be one of the 5 or 4 best teams in the country. So I don't know how many teams are going to have that type of quality wins, those two types of quality wins. You just throw it out there like anybody can do it. I don't even think there's going to be 10 teams in the country with those 2 level wins.
And competitive losses against top 5 range teams.
Yes.
Yeah, I guess they would go in. If the season plays out something close to the way I had it, I had 9-3 SEC teams making the playoffs. Tennessee was one of them.
Good, because I don't think a lot of people are prepared mentally for a 9-3 SEC team to make the playoffs. So I'm just trying to use some exposure therapy to let people know that possibility. It's good you got a comment from Keep Chopping Up. Rutgers, I mean, hey, they won, Mark. So any win for Rutgers is a good win. Is this the best Rutgers has been in since the first time Greg Schiano was at Rutgers?
Oh, heck yeah. Absolutely.
Do you think they should be legitimately in the top 25 now?
They'll be in my top 25, so yes.
Good. I'm glad you're giving them the respect that they deserve.
They might have been there anyway. I don't remember if I ranked them this past week or not.
Good. Now, Mark, would you say the most important game from a national perspective this weekend is the Louisville versus Notre Dame game?
Well, I did see a stat on ESPN. I don't know who comes up with this. I guess it is ESPN that says that this game they have some kind of playoff leverage indicator, and this game has more impact on playoff probabilities for both teams than any game this week. So I don't always believe in those things, but as I survey the games, because Georgia and Alabama are who they are, and because we've got other teams that have a lot on the line trying to stay alive, like USC, but they're a 2-touchdown favorite, I would say yeah, this is probably the most important game of the week.
Right. And the final game I'll mention, Mark, is nobody's really well, two games I want to hit real quick is nobody's talking about Kansas State, Oklahoma State, and Penn State versus Illinois. How, like, Kansas State and Oklahoma State, do you think the loser of this game is eliminated from the Big 12 race effectively?
They would have 2 losses. No, they're not, because there's a championship game, and the runaway winner in the regular season for the 1 seed could be Utah, and then the second place team could win some kind of crazy tiebreaker.
Okay, at 6-2, you think they would have?
Yeah,
they'd have to run the schedule.
7-2 for their league. Yeah,
I got you.
9. Yep.
And the Penn State, apparently they're having their whiteout against Illinois. Do you think this is a game Illinois has any chance at, or do you think it's what the spread suggests and they're just going to be a nice story, lay down and roll over and completely wither on the vine?
No, Penn State has not in any way, and I try to evaluate these teams from year to year, meaning not some kind of historical recency bias, but I still have to believe that there is a carryover effect for the better teams, especially that same coach, same program, culture, that there is carryover. Like Ohio State hasn't played anyone. They're the only team in the country that's played no one, but we know who they are. So we can trust how good they are, even though we haven't seen it this year. So apply that to Penn State. When does Penn State ever really soundly beat a good team? And I think Illinois is approaching that good team level, that 8-4 team level. I think Illinois is going to give them a fight.
Could you expand upon what you mean by that? Do you think that means it's going to be like close at halftime? Do you think in the fourth quarter Illinois is going to have a lead? What do you mean by give them a fight?
Give them a fight. They are going to lose by 1 or 2 scores. And 1 or 2 scores meaning not down by 21 and then they score a touchdown with 3 minutes left and lose by 14. No, have a chance to win the game with 5 or 6 minutes left in the game. Illinois will still have a chance to win midway through the fourth quarter.
I'm sure they'll take him. I mean, hey, they got a good coach up there, Brett Bielema. They beat Wisconsin a few years ago when nobody expected it. So it's nice to see these relevant Big Ten teams that have been in the dustbin for a while start to win some football games like them and Indiana and Rutgers. You know, it's nice to see some fresh faces at the top this late in the season.
Penn State is going to see a defense on Saturday.
Yeah, they had that first-round pick, that cornerback from a few years ago. Witherspoon, I think his name was. So they've had legit talent in Illinois, legit players.
That particular defense had 2 first-rounders and 1 second-rounder on the same defense, and this secondary is comparable to that one. They have an excellent secondary.
Okay, so are we putting Drew Aller on like the pumpkin watch where he can completely fold over like he did against Ohio State and Michigan last year?
We're putting Drew Aller on notice.
Okay. Well, I'm hoping Corey Brada will call him because he's calling me out a bunch in the comments section. You know, it's kind of ironic, an Iowa fan who's happy to have a quarterback can throw over 100 yards, who lost to Iowa State, who has no chance of doing anything meaningful this season, is calling out a Kentucky fan. We're in the exact same boat.
What is the scrap here between you and Corey tonight?
I don't know. He always calls me the fake MVP, which I don't get it. He just hates how real it is, I guess. I can't help it. His team is fraudulent, Mark, okay? Every year they win 10 games because they play elite defense, but anytime they play an elite offense, they get smoked. And now they've got an okay to horrible not horrible offense, and now their defense took a step back, Mark. So they'll probably still be in the same spot where they were. They took 1 step forward on offense. They took 1 step back on defense.
You know, I'm conservative to hold my judgment until I see multiple games, but I tend to agree that there is evidence there. Iowa State second half and Minnesota first half that Iowa's defense isn't quite as good as it's been. And they go to Columbus next Saturday.
Right. Yes, Corey. Your defense took a step back. Iowa's defense would have never given up 20 points to Iowa State. They would have never given up that final drive to Iowa State if they had the defense they've had over the last few years. That defense was legit the best defense in the country for the amount of snaps they had to play. So instead of being number 1, you're like number 5 to number 10 range, which is still awesome. You're just not at the top of the hill anymore.
It doesn't appear so.
Right. I to my opinion, Ohio State has the best defense this year.
Okay. Where else would you go for other top 5 defenses?
Georgia, Michigan. Those are the only 2 have proven that level of.
Okay.
I need to see some more from other teams to play elite teams first before I get it. But I have confidence in those teams.
Okay.
And then there's, this year it's kind of strange because the parity in the football world is more open than it has been previously.
Yeah. Although this is coming from someone, unless, correct me if I'm wrong, who believes basically football is played in the SEC and in Columbus, Ohio would be the only one that could play with those teams.
Yeah, consistently. That's absolutely true.
Yeah, consistently. Yeah. Yeah. Year
right.
after
But
year.
normally there's only 1 or 2 SEC teams and then Ohio State who can win it. There may be 3 or 4 SEC teams in Ohio State who can win it. I mean, you got Georgia, Texas, Ohio State, Alabama, and Tennessee, and then nobody else can win it this year.
Okay, unless you have anything else, I got one more question for you. I guess we've turned this around to me asking you the questions, but that's okay. I appreciate your insight on these things. If I told you somebody other than an SEC team or Ohio State was going to win the national championship, who would that be?
Miami.
Oh, okay.
They've got the quarterback who can do it.
Yeah, he is fun to watch.
Yeah, Clemson would be that next team. They don't have the quarterback though. They can do it. They've got the front 7 that can absolutely do it. And then the team after that would be Utah, but Utah just doesn't have enough talent. They've got the coaching staff and they're a mini Michigan. They're a very poor man's Michigan is what they are.
All right,
but anyway, Mark, it's good talking to you.
Absolutely. Have a good one. We will keep it rolling here at the Voice of College Football. We got our buddy Dave on the line. Dave, what's going on?
Oh man, was Gerard Phelan at the bottom of that pile? Did we did we almost have a rerun of the Doug Flutie miracle? By the way, Mark,
it was crazier than that. That ball was in 1984 was securely caught with no controversy.
You watched that game, didn't you, Mark? You probably
I
remember
watched
that game
that
better
game.
than I.
I'm sure I did. I don't recollect it. I believe there are 2 plays that come to mind that are the most overrated plays in the history of college football. Listen up, Boston College / Doug Flutie fans, if those people even exist anymore 40 years later. And also listen up, Team Up North fans. Most overrated plays ever. Number 1, the Doug Flutie pass. It's a Hail Mary that happens 3, 4, 5 times every college football season. It happens like once a month in college football every year. It's not that big. It's a great play, great finish. No, it was because it was Doug Flutie. It was Miami. It was Friday, CBS, Brent Musburger, Black Friday. Everybody in the nation's watching. Did anybody win a championship?
No. That was a down Miami team. No, you're right.
No ramifications of a national championship. Nothing. Okay. It won Doug Flutie the Heisman Trophy, possibly. Well, not possibly.
And robbed Keith Byers, by the way, Mark. Robbed Keith Byers of the Heisman that year, didn't it?
Yes. And who was the best football player in America, which the Heisman is supposed to go to the best football player in America, not the best story, not the guy that we like to watch the most because he's 5 feet tall and he's fun to watch because he's like this underdog story. No, it's the best football player.
Right.
Play number 2, most overrated player and play in the history of college football is the Jadeveon Clowney hit on Fitz Toussaint, where nobody blocked him and he just ran. He basically just ran fast and
Clowney
ran
lived
into a guy.
off that hit. Clowney lived off that hit for like a while too, by the way, Mark.
Yeah, all the way to being the number 1 pick in the draft.
By the way, my personal favorite Hail Mary of all time is Cordell Stewart's 70 yards in the air to Michael Westbrook. I bet you wouldn't have guessed that one, huh, Mark?
No, certainly that would have taken me all day to figure that one out. That's your favorite Hail Mary of all time.
Yeah, easily my favorite Hail Mary of all time. Stewart threw that ball 70 yards in the air, by the way. That's impressive.
He was not a good quarterback, not at the NFL level, but man, he could chuck it. Now, my favorite Hail Marys of all time were mostly thrown by Aaron Rodgers.
Oh, okay.
I just thought it didn't seem like for about 3 or 4 years he was doing that like every 3 weeks.
That's
he
true.
Was winning a game with a Hail Mary.
I remember the Detroit one. Yeah, that one sticks in my mind. Didn't he do one against Arizona too?
Yes.
Yeah, I remember the Arizona one.
Yeah. My possible favorite of all time, and people will be surprised by this because they would think that I would be rooting the other way, but was the before your time Tommy Kramer, Ahmad Rashad,
oh wow,
Minnesota against the Cleveland Browns that won the division for Minnesota, delayed the division title 1 week for the Browns to have to go to Cincinnati and win it against Kenny Anderson the next week.
Well, you weren't a Browns fan at the time.
No,
Mark.
I was a Cowboys fan.
You were a Cow. That's right. Yeah.
Oh, boy, was I a Cowboys fan.
Yeah,
oh, man.
Danny White, Tony Dorsett, all those guys. Those were your guys, Mark.
Oh man, Too Tall Jones, Drew Pearson, Tony Hill.
There you go. Randy White. Yeah.
If I'm watching something sports related on YouTube, it's probably an old Cowboys game from the 80s.
Okay. So you liked him like back with Staubach and those guys.
Yeah, I barely caught Staubach, but I did.
Yeah.
I caught like his last 2 seasons.
What was that you were saying, Mark? Didn't you have a channel that was dedicated to like historic NFL games or NFL?
Yes.
What was that, Mark?
Pro football
you talked
history.
about it once.
We've got some. I'm going to pull this up as we probably lose viewers. But
by the way, I'd have been there.
We're talking about the games tonight, and I'm going to find this channel because we posted about 10 videos. We had fun breaking down like all sorts of overrated quarterbacks, underrated quarterbacks of all time, and all sorts of great categories.
I'll tell you what, I wouldn't have been I would have been there for you, Mark. I'm just saying, it wouldn't have been me. I would have helped that channel. I would have been there all the time for you, buddy. I'm just saying.
Fun. Yeah.
That sounds cool. Let's talk a little bit about the game tonight and then a few games tomorrow if we can, Mark. By the way, is that correct? The Miami tight end is in his 9th year. Is that accurate? His 9th year.
McCormick from Oregon. Yes. 9
wow.
seasons.
You talk about another Van Wilder out there of college football. Although, he's at Miami, so it's maybe it's not all that bad down there on South Beach, I guess. But wow. 9th year of college football. That's amazing.
It is crazy.
By the way, does this still help Cam Ward's chances for the Heisman? I don't know if you're ranking Heisman contenders right now, or if you've got him near the top of the list, Mark.
I'm not big on the Heisman, but I could probably get into that discussion. Yes. And sure, this helps him.
Okay. Who would you have higher, Cam Ward or Travis Hunter?
Best football player in America, Travis Hunter.
Okay. Would you have Hunter as the favorite right now if you were picking a favorite?
If it goes to the best football player, yes.
Okay. Interesting. So he could be the one guy that can kind of rock the quarterback boat of, quarterback usually winning this award.
It's taking me forever here to remember who won it last year. Who won the Heisman last year?
It was Daniels, who's now lighting
Yes,
up the
Jaden
NFL.
Daniels. Okay. That
Well
was
deserved.
Okay. Yes.
Well deserved, by
absolutely.
the way. Yeah.
The last time they screwed up the Heisman was 2015.
You would have given it to Christian McCaffrey that year over
I was a
Derrick Henry.
Christian McCaffrey
Yeah.
guy in 2015, and I was actually, I believe they screwed it up in 2016 for as great as Lamar Jackson was, and Derrick Henry as well. I was a Deshaun Watson guy in 2016.
Well, I think he got the last laugh. It's a little bit Deshaun Watson in 16 is a little bit like Vince Young in 05. Where you could have said that Vince Young was the best player in 05, but Vince Young got the last laugh in the same way Deshaun Watson got the last laugh in 2016.
It's a regular season award. Yes.
So, all right, let's get into the games a little bit tomorrow if we can. I'm going to start with the game tomorrow, which is Georgia and Bama.
You fooled me there for a minute, Dave. You said the game tomorrow. I was like, did I miss something?
Well, it's the biggest marquee matchup
Yes.
tomorrow, Mark, which is where maybe I should rephrase and have put it that way. But here's how I break this one down. And I was surprised Uncle Lou actually picked against his team. He picked Bama to win the game, actually, on his channel, which I found to be interesting enough. I actually went back and watched the SEC title game last year between these two teams. And Uncle Lou's point, what I thought was the difference in that game, and going back and watching that game, was I thought Milrose scrambling, and I thought the fact that Georgia's two best receivers were playing that game injured were two of the biggest differences in that game. But actually, Uncle Lou was right in going back and watching the game. The biggest difference in that game was the trenches. Alabama really dominated that game in the trenches, although it was only a 3-point game. And I do wonder if McConkey and Bowers were healthy in that game, if they would have been able to make a play or two that would have made a difference in a 3-point football game. So
you would think so. But also, it was not a 3-point game in which Georgia had the ball. They drove down the field.
True.
They got the ball fringe field goal range, missed a field goal, or just didn't quite get there. Or maybe it was down 4 and needed a touchdown and got to the 10-yard. Bama was leading in that second half by a score, then 2 scores, then back to a score. So they had like a 1.5-score lead most of the way. And then they, of course, gave up the touchdown to Georgia and ran out the last 4 minutes. So that was pretty impressive to me. So I would agree with Uncle Lou on my recollection of the game, having not watched it since December, that trench, I wouldn't call it dominance, but Bama outplayed Georgia in the trenches.
Well, the only thing that I was thinking about playmaking ability or having a healthy Bowers and a healthy McConkey, number one, Georgia was pretty much dependent as those being their top 2 targets pretty much last year. And if you go back and going back and watching the game, Georgia had a lot of empty possessions in the first half and actually the first 3 quarters of that football game. I thought if those guys were healthy, they'd have been able to make a play or two, maybe in the first 3 quarters of that football game that might have made a difference. But I get Uncle Lou's point in rewatching it. The trenches were a huge difference in this game. And this kind of brings me to how I see this game going tomorrow. I think much like last year, I think Milrose's legs are going to be a big factor in this game. The other factor in this game, I think, for Alabama is Williams on the outside. I think he could be a difference maker for Alabama in this game.
Totally agree on both points. I would say that I am more sure of what I'm going to get out of Carson Beck than Jalen Milroe, but Jalen Milroe's A game, A-, even B+ game is better than Carson Beck's to the same degree. I think Jalen Milroe is a better player at his best. He can provide more, obviously, because the guy can throw the best deep ball in all of college football, plus the running ability. But if they both play their B to C game, then it's Carson Beck with the highest floor of any quarterback in the nation.
See, my thinking is that I went into the season like most people thinking, wasn't the prevailing theory that Beck and yours were the 2 best quarterbacks coming back this year?
Yes.
Okay. So and I said this after the Kentucky game. My question isn't necessarily about Carson Beck. My question is about the talent around Carson Beck. That's why I mentioned about McConkey and Bowers a year ago. I mean, who's going to be that difference maker for Georgia in this game that's going to make a play at receiver or at tight end? I agree, their backs aren't bad. I think Frazier's a good back. I think ATN's a good back. But who's going to be that difference maker who's going to make a play downfield? For Alabama, I could see Williams being that guy for them. I don't know who the guy is for Georgia. That's my question. And I think a fair question, by the way.
It is a good question. And I'm going to turn away from the nuts and bolts, X's and O's exactly on the field to, even though I'm a pretty big fan of Kalen DeBoer, this is his first go around of a Titanic matchup in the SEC, and he's really not prepared. I'm not saying he's not prepared for this. We don't know. We have yet to see whether he's really taken this in. I think that was a great hire by Alabama. I would have made the same hire and all those things. I think long term it's a really good hire, but I think there might be something to be learned in him just kind of taking in this atmosphere, this hype, the magnitude of this game. He's never coached a regular season game like this, where for Kirby Smart, this is kind of like, I do this, we do this all the time.
Yeah, I mean, I hear your point on that, Mark, and I think Kirby's going to have his team ready to play. I just think Alabama at home, and like I said, I think Alabama's offense all the way around just looks better than Georgia's offense all the way around right now, even though I really like Carson Beck.
Well, I'm leaning Bama too.
Okay.
I'm right there with you. I'm just saying that I think because of the Jalen Milroe factor, that Bama wins a game in which he plays near his best. He doesn't have to be perfect, but Georgia has Carson Beck and a more steadying-handed quarterback. So, like, if you told me this game's going to be 34-13, that's the final score, I'd say Georgia won.
Okay. So you can see Georgia winning more in a game that's a blowout as opposed to a close game, is what you're saying?
Yes.
Oh, interesting. I find that interesting. Well, I got a 31-21 Alabama. That's my prediction. I think it's a good game. I think they score late to put it away. You know, it's a 24-21 game, and maybe they score in the last couple minutes to put the game away. I think Beck will move the ball and make some plays, but I think Milroe's got more talent around him, and then I think his scrambling ability is coupled with his scrambling ability. And in the SEC title game, that was a big part of their victory in that game as well. I think that's the difference in the football game.
Yeah, what he was able to do on that final drive, he had two big runs on that final drive, and you're talking about taking on a defense that was desperate. Like, they knew they needed a stop, and he ran past guys, ran through guys, made guys miss, did everything that needed to be done to keep Georgia's offense off the field and secure that game.
So, I mean, I think it'll be a good one. And by the way, I did pick Georgia to play for the national title this year. But I think I said this when we did the 12-team playoff. This, to me, was their only loss. Now, this game's going to tell a lot. And and Georgia's schedule after this, obviously, you already talked about it. You know how difficult it is. I may have to rethink that depending upon how this game goes tomorrow. So, I mean, we'll see. But, I mean, and certainly Texas looks really, really good. So, you know, we may have to rethink that a little bit. I did want to get to the Penn State-Illinois game as well, Mark. I know everybody's – are you confounded by the 18-point line? Because that seems to be the prevailing theory out there right now, is everybody is confounded by the fact that Penn State's favored by 18 points.
Well, our buddy Steve Merrill tells us on a regular basis that the public doesn't know what it's doing. He's not quite that harsh when he says that, but I'll say it. So that concerns me because I'm in that boat too. That just seems like way too many points. Way too many points.
Well, I know that you're pro Ohio quarterbacks going to play at Penn State, Mark. And, that being said, Drew Aller has played really well so far this year. I think Brett's defense is going to give him some problems. Um, However, I just think Penn State, to me, Illinois looks a lot like a little bit of like if Illinois and Iowa played on a neutral field, who would you favor right now, Mark?
Iowa, barely,
Okay. Okay.
barely.
See, I was going to say with Altmaier
Sure.
is Illinois a slightly better version of Iowa with McNamara?
Well, David, we've had these discussions many times throughout the
Okay.
years. You love to go to the skill position players, and you're right. Altmaier's a better quarterback than Cade McNamara. We hopefully are going to keep our buddy Corey on the line here pretty soon and grab him.
Okay.
See, since he's calling in, but we were going through Big Ten quarterbacks, not one by one, but just kind of, I was going back to the well that Kirk Ferentz should have been playing Brendan Sullivan, should have had a quarterback competition, should have started the season with that because Brendan Sullivan's been just as good in his career as Cade McNamara. He just didn't have the Michigan lineup around him or a Michigan defense on the other side, but he's thrown 200 passes as a Big Ten quarterback. He's completing 68, 69% of them. Plus, he's mobile. He can run. Why they didn't give that guy a shot, I don't know. And now if Cade gets hurt or if he, if he just plays the way he's already playing, but they actually are losing in a game, then if they have to go to Brendan Sullivan, maybe he's going to be a little bit rusty because he hasn't had meaningful snaps this year. But Cade McNamara, if you go through the quarterbacks in the Big Ten,
Yeah.
I'm not going to rank him ahead of many. I don't know who those guys are. Maybe he's better than Billy Edwards at Maryland, maybe. And maybe Aiden Childs makes too many mistakes,
I
but
was going to
shoot,
ask you Childs, yeah.
I'll take his upside for sure over Cade McNamara. And I don't know if he's even better than the Minnesota quarterback. He's better than the Northwestern quarterback. I'll give him that. He's not a good quarterback.
Yeah. Well, you wouldn't take him over Raiola, would you?
No.
Okay.
No,
Okay.
that's what I'm saying. I wouldn't take him hardly over anybody in the entire conference.
Well, yeah, but I mean, we've talked about it. I mean, maybe this isn't the best of Big Ten quarterbacks this year either, Mark. So, that's why I don't know.
That's even more
Yeah.
accentuating my point.
No, it is. Yeah, it is. Yeah, I would say this. I think Illinois is pretty solid defensively. But I will say I like Penn State's. I think Penn State has some pretty good balance on offense. I really like their backs. And I've never thought the problem with Penn State's passing game has been Aller. I think the problem with Penn State's passing game is that they haven't given Aller really good wide receivers. Your buddy Sean Clifford always had better receivers, and we've talked about this before, than Aller had. He's not had a Jahan Dotson. He's not had a Hamler. He's not had even a Parker Washington at wide receiver or anything even close to that. Are any of the Penn State receivers right now comparable to any of those three guys?
No.
Okay, so there you go. So we can agree your hero, Sean Clifford, had a number one that was better than Drew Aller's number one the last couple years. So that's where I think the Penn State game has been passing game has been lacking. I know Aller's caught a lot of grief, but if you look at it so far, he's played pretty well.
Sure. And I'm a Drew Aller fan.
Yeah, no, I saw him play in high school, Pride of Medina. He solid. And I like the Singleton Allen combination in the backfield. I think they're pretty good. Although I was right to have doubts about that Penn State defense, though. Remember, we talked about that before the West Virginia game. This is not the Penn State defense of yesteryear, or I should say of last year. Losing Chop Robinson and some of the losses they had in the secondary. I know they still have Abdul Carter, and who's the DN they have? Adisa, is it Isaac or something like that?
Yes, you just about nailed it.
Okay. I was going to need help on that last name, Mark. It's not exactly Bill Smith. So, that's why I was, you know,
Bowling
you-
Green gave him all sorts of fits.
that's what I'm saying. I mean, Bowling Green moved the ball pretty well on them. So, I mean, will Altmaier and that Illinois offense have success? I don't know. I got Penn State tomorrow by a touchdown in that game. I think it'll be a competitive game, but I think Penn State it'll be one of those games where Penn State's usually in control of it pretty much throughout.
Well, that's basically what I was telling our buddy DeReal when he pushed me on a prediction that I think Penn State's in for a big fight in this one.
Yeah, I tend to agree. By the way, I wanted to throw this out there. A lot of people are really high on Tennessee right now. I heard Colin Coward and our buddy Joel Klatt talk about Tennessee being a legit national title team. Do you feel Tennessee right now is a legitimate national title contender, Mark? Are you willing to go that far?
I'm getting closer in that direction. What impressed me about that game last week is that it was boring. That doesn't make any sense maybe on the surface, but it was a boring game because they were that good that it was boring. That was, of course, the game to watch last Saturday night. That was the number one game I wanted to see. Once they pulled off one good play, one big, like 60-yard pass play for a touchdown, I thought this game on the scoreboard, it's not over. And Oklahoma's got a really good defense, but it's over. It's over. And the rest of the game, I watched till like 19-3. Then I thought, I got to move on from this game. It's boring. But that's to Tennessee's credit that they won a game in which they basically just played vanilla offense. I think Heupel knew they can't score on our defense. So we're not even going to put Nico in a difficult place. We're not going to expose him to a pass rush. We're going to run the ball. We don't need to do anything. We don't need to put anything more on tape for our big games down the road. And they still won. They won a defensive game. I thought that was impressive, that they can now show us to beat a quality opponent to win defensively, because we know they can do it the other way.
Yeah, that's the interesting thing. I think a lot of people I'm hearing are talking up their defense. And you know what? If you look at them 2 years ago, that was pretty much an offensive team with a defense that, had some question marks to it. I mean, it was pretty much that high-flying offense with a strong running game, and then Hooker and those receivers just throwing the ball all over the field. That's why I asked the question. I put it in the chat, Mark, and maybe I've asked you this question too. Do you think Nico has a higher upside than Hendon Hooker does?
Yes, I do. I would like to see him play more. I really haven't seen him play that much. But from everything I know, yes, he does.
Okay. Yeah, I've heard some people say that they could see Nico as a starting quarterback in the NFL.
Sure. I agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, I always thought of Hooker as like a really good college quarterback, but I never thought necessarily he would transition to be an NFL starting quarterback.
Exactly.
So, yeah, I mean, I like Tennessee. I think they're really good. I'm hearing that, and I think they can win a playoff game, and maybe they can get as far as the semifinals. But I also think Oklahoma, as I told you last week, is fraudulent. They've got a quarterback situation. This isn't your older brother's Oklahoma offense, Mark. I don't know about you. I don't know what your thoughts are.
Their defense is not fraudulent, but you are correct. But Oklahoma, if you want some direction on a game this week, of course, they go to Auburn. You talk about a miserable offensive matchup.
That's
My
right.
goodness, Auburn's horrible. Oklahoma's top 5 wide receivers are out.
Wow.
Deion Burks just got hurt. He was the last guy standing. They're going to start a freshman quarterback.
Oh, they're not going to go back to Jackson at
Nope.
Okay.
They're going with Michael Hawkins.
Wow. So they're not going to put their hand on that stove again, I guess.
Not for now.
Speaking of games that could set back offensive football, I watched your usual weekly visit with Mr. Dace this week.
Nice.
I found I found it interesting that he's looking for 10 passing plays for that'll work for Alex Orji. I mean, good luck with that, by the way. Are we sure he can complete a forward pass, by the way?
I will let the viewers know, and you as well, Dave, that the one unfortunate takeaway that I had from recording that is that was maybe the only time ever we had to re-record because they had some kind of a technical issue, and so we had to re-record. The first recording, Steve pitched it to me, and the first thing out of my mouth was, I slaughter this program on a regular basis because you claimed 3 national championships before the forward pass was legalized. And now you've taken us all the way back 120 years to that time again.
Yeah, no, I'm wondering if they should start running wishbone or triple option or something like that, considering his inept passing ability. I mean, seriously. I mean, what was his best throw? A wide receiver screen? I mean, seriously.
Yeah.
I mean, I hear you. I mean, there are games you can win by playing really good defense and running the football, tried and true. But if your quarterback cannot complete a forward pass, I mean, give me a break. And by the way, Lincoln Riley's clock management, don't get me started. I heard the USC chat. I just have to say, you still have to be able to make that other team burn their timeouts, run the football, and bleed clock. Because if you at least put them in a position where either where the clock is, worked down and they have to throw the football, or they're out of timeouts. So, I mean, I digress on that point. I just wanted to throw that out there. I know you guys did the USC conversation on that game, but did you remark about that after the game, Mark? I didn't know if you had any thoughts on that one.
Yeah, I actually was looking at my Twitter today and saw where I was tweeting about Lincoln Riley. I said, remember, take note of this. 11 minutes left in the game, or whatever the time frame was. Take note of this, of him misusing his timeouts.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know what? I was on the Team Up North chat before the season started, and they had said that how they were going to divvy up the carries between Edwards and Mullings. And I don't think there's any divvying going forward. I think they found who their best running back is, right?
Yes. Yeah. Boy, that was we can make fun of their team and make fun of the
Right.
passing situation and quarterback play and all that, but that was that was manning up at the right time, because I thought they were dead in the water. And I never say a game's over in that situation because I've seen way too much, but I thought, it was going through my mind, why don't you put Davis Warren out there? Because what's the difference between ending the game on an interception and ending the game on a 3 incompletions? What's the difference? At least he is capable of throwing the ball down the field to complete passes to win a game. But you can't count on a 65-yard run with 2 minutes left in the game at your own 10 or 12-yard line. That just isn't something that should be counted upon again.
Well, see, when they gave them the ball back, I just have to make this last point. Remember in college, they gave them the ball back with 2 timeouts. And in college, you have the stoppage on the first down mark. So that actually is plenty of time to still run the football, even with as backed up as they were. I mean, you're looking at 3-something in 2 timeouts. You can put together a run drive, over that period of time in college. You don't have to be in just shotgun sling it around mode at that particular, you know what I mean?
No, you don't. The defense has to respect both. I had a flashback to Bill Walsh fooling Tom Landry with the running game on the final drive before the
Right.
catch, because that's exactly what he did as well. It was assumed, okay, well, they got to throw the ball. They're 89 yards away from the goal line, but no, there was enough time to run the ball. And there certainly was for Michigan with this new 2-minute timeout now,
Right.
but still, you wouldn't think that they could strictly run the ball down the field.
Well, yeah. I mean, the guy didn't make a tackle. It's that simple. You make the tackle, they're in a good spot. So,
Yeah.
By the way, any other games tomorrow you're looking at, Mark, you've got circled other than a couple of those major ones?
Well, you know me, I kind of like to delve to the ugly. Wisconsin and USC. Maybe Wisconsin gives them. It doesn't size up as a good matchup for Wisconsin. USC may completely overwhelm them athletically. Um, Nothing's coming to mind that's off the radar, but I'm sure there's a few games out there. I don't know when there's ever been a 38-point spread in the SEC that did not involve Vandy, Mississippi State, Texas. That's crazy.
Wow. Well, I mean, I think that shows how much people think of both programs right now, right, Mark?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I will say this, by the way. Uh, I was listening to a college football podcast, and they were talking about Wisconsin, and they made a really good point. I think Luke Fickell hiring Phil Longo, I think they're kind of caught in between right now.
Yeah.
They haven't committed. They don't want to go back to being Barry Alvarez, Wisconsin, and yet they've hired this coordinator to kind of introduce this up tempo kind of passing game, and it seems like they can't commit to one or the other.
I challenged the Wisconsin guy that we had on from Lockdown on the USC show the other night because he's a great guy, Ryan Herrings, and he's really good at what he does. But I did challenge him on this point. I just thought, I don't know if they can be that kind of program where they play. And I know this is a different era with NIL and the transfer portal and going outside your region and all that, but I don't know that they can go outside their region and get those type of players consistently at that level.
Right.
I don't know that this is a great strategy.
Yeah, I mean that was an interesting move for him and an interesting strategy because for 800 years it seemed like the same playbook that Barry Alvarez had won with was passed down coach to coach to coach to coach. So I found that to be interesting.
All right, David.
All right.
Else?
No, that's all right, Mark. Just looking at my picks for tomorrow, I'm gonna. By the way, you had your guy Steve Merrill in tomorrow or today, right?
Yes.
Today. It's going to be interesting. I'm going to take a look at a few of his picks. The one I like is Alabama on the money line, so I'm going to have to see some more action for tomorrow and see what I like. So
yeah, he runs his 10,000 simulations. So
yeah,
there you go.
I know he's got a pretty good record. Well, you're still doing pretty well, right, Mark? Aren't you? What did you say? 60% against
we don't want to mention my record this year. No.
Oh,
but see, the good point is, if people want to jump on my predictions now, is that the law of averages always works out. So that means my best 9 or 10 weeks are coming.
Well, hey, you got to get it going, Mark, if you're going to put on that addition to your palatial estate over there, Mark. So.
All right, my friend.
Always a pleasure. Hey, doing the call-in show tomorrow?
Absolutely.
All right. And then Sunday morning, too, as well.
Yes. You got it.
All right. We'll get back together and talk college football again, Mark. You take care of yourself.
Thanks, David. Appreciate it. All right. Let's keep it moving. We got Michael on the line. Michael, what's going on? Purdue did not play tonight or lose tonight.
No, they do. No, they do not. And I got a feeling it might be an interesting game tomorrow. But I'm going to ask you this. Maryland, IU, how interesting the game is that going to be for you tomorrow?
Very interesting. Let's see who's got the TV on that. I got to think it's a Big Ten Network game.
You would be correct, sir.
Yeah. I can't say that it's going to be one of my top two in that window. What time are they playing? At noon?
Yes, sir.
I'm going to go. Let's see. At noon, I have to. Yeah, I can't watch that game because you got Michigan, Minnesota. I know it's going to be a drag, but got to watch that game. Kansas State, Oklahoma State might be the most important game all season in the Big 12. Even Kentucky and Ole Miss is a better. Yeah, that's my fourth game. That's my fourth game.
That nothing against the real, but I think that Kentucky game might be ugly tomorrow.
Oh, it might be, sure.
But I gotta ask you this though: how is Ohio State, Michigan State on Peacock, just like Penn State, Illinois, or is Penn State and Illinois on NBC?
They're on NBC.
But how is this Ohio State game going to be on Peacock? I think Ohio State is still winning. But that's going to be a good game, but I think for 3 quarters.
Well, understand that they're trying to drive people to Peacock, and also understand that Louisville Notre Dame, that might be the best game of the day, the most important game of the day. That's on Peacock. Yeah.
Yeah. What's NBC showing at 3:30 tomorrow?
Oh, NBC?
Yeah.
I don't think they're showing anything, are they?
No, I don't think so, unless you're doing some NASCAR race, but I digress. Anyway, I gotta say this though. I thought when I first seen the Hail Mary, I thought it was gonna be good and Virginia Tech wins the game. But after I watched it from a couple different angles, I did see the ball come out of the receiver's hands, and it looked like there was a player on top of him. Well, the receiver was like a player underneath the receiver, and maybe he grabbed it or something or knocked it out. I don't know, but it was close.
Well, the thing is, you don't know, and the officials don't know. That's the problem.
No, I see.
None of us know. None of us know and could really see. And they called it a touchdown on the field.
Yeah, but you didn't see the ball come out though in the replay though.
Oh, sure, I did.
Yeah,
but the ball never hit the ground.
No, I'm not disputing that. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying I just didn't see the ball came out. But what I'm saying is, though, Virginia Tech lost that game more than Miami won it tonight.
I agree with that. Sure.
But no, I'm with you. They should have had an explanation at the end, but that's definitely. But anyway, I was just wondering stuff like that. But last time Georgia went to Bryant-Denny being the favorite.
Georgia. The last time I read this week, so I'm guessing it was accurate. The last time Alabama was a underdog at home was in 2007 against LSU.
Okay. I thought you were going to say Louisiana Lafayette there for a minute there. But no.
So yeah, they've mostly played Georgia in SEC championship games, and they beat them in 2020 in Tuscaloosa. They were probably a touchdown favorite in that game, but an underdog. They were an underdog against Mark Richt's Georgia team, but that was in Athens in 2015.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's been a long, long time.
Yeah, I was just wondering stuff like that. And I know we was talking like with the Cowboys and stuff like that. That Hail Mary with Tommy Kramer and Ahmad Rashad wasn't at the last game in the old Memorial. I'm trying to remember what they named
the Metropolitan Stadium.
That
in
was
Bloomington, Minnesota. Yes.
Yep. That was the last game there, and they
it was.
But yeah, Tony Dorsett was good and stuff like that. But could you imagine how good Dallas would have been had they had Barry Sanders instead of Emmitt Smith? They probably could have won 5 Super Bowls in a row.
Why?
Emmitt was good, but I think Barry Sanders is just night and day better than they was in the same, because they both came out about the same time, didn't they?
Well, yeah. They let's see. Barry Sanders was a rookie in 1989, Emmitt Smith in 1990.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, right. It's sometimes we get a little bit fooled by flash and speed in sports. Most people believe that Barry Sanders was better. I'm not saying that he wasn't better. Mm-hmm. I'm saying it's not as wide a gap as people believe. I don't know if Barry Sanders is pushing piles and gaining the kind of yardage that Emmitt Smith was. And even though people will point to Emmitt Smith having a great offensive line, which he did.
Mm-hmm.
Detroit ran the type system with that 4 wide, 5 wide all the time with those. They spread the defense out. They created a lot of running lanes for Barry Sanders by the sheer style of their offense and throwing the ball. What they had Eric Kramer, they had Scott Mitchell, those guys throwing the ball for 4,000 yards.
Yeah.
So Barry Sanders is awesome. Yes. To watch the two guys run. Yes. He was a more fun running back to watch.
Yeah.
But I don't know that any back lost more yardage in the history of the NFL than Barry Sanders.
That I think that was his downfall. But how many times have you seen him be like 6 or 7 yards in the backfield, and next he's off the races for like 80 yards?
I know it.
Not bad. But hey, what do you think the one key is going to be for Louisville tomorrow? Get pressure on Riley Leonard early.
The key is going to be stopping Notre Dame's running game. If I'm Louisville, I'm doing everything to stop those two excellent Notre Dame running backs, Price and Love. Those guys are exceptional, both of them. And
Yeah, they
I'll
are.
take Riley Leonard trying to run because he's a willing runner. He's a good runner, but he's not burning you for a 50-yard run. So
well, unless you're Purdue.
Well, unless you're Purdue.
Yeah, because he did shake a couple of people, but I digress. But no, so you think you tried to stop the run early, but the thing is, I haven't seen Louisville play this year, so I don't even know who their quarterback is.
It is Tyler Shook.
Okay.
Formerly of Texas Tech and Oregon.
Okay. Just was wondering stuff like that. But how do you think Raiola might do in his first true road game tomorrow?
Who's on the road for the first time?
Nebraska.
Oh, yeah, that's your Boilers, of course. They're only a 10-point dog at home against Nebraska.
Yeah.
I would think, well, Nebraska's got an extra day to prepare, that having lost this game, that they should be focused and a little mad, you would think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I got a feeling if Purdue keeps doing like they did the last two games, they were able to leave the defense on for over 70 plays, man. That defense is going to be done. Tomorrow's going to be the telling game, I think, because if they have to be out there for 70-plus plays again, I think the defense is going to be totally wiped out for the rest of the year. But it is what it is, though. So,
yeah, I think Nebraska is fully capable of blowing out Purdue.
Mm-hmm. But will it happen with the weather conditions, though, tomorrow? We're expecting.
Well, that's another deal. I don't know what the weather conditions are. Maybe you could tell us.
Rain and wind.
Oh, well, okay. That changes things. Maybe we get kind of an Ohio State, Northwestern kind of deal from a couple years ago.
Mm-hmm. And maybe Maccabee can run for like 5,000 yards and have like 20 touchdowns tomorrow. Maybe that's the only way Purdue wins. But who knows? But no, actually, I know I'm not an IU fan, but I'm actually kind of waiting for October 19th. Because IU can still be undefeated, but I don't know if it'll happen though. But that's when Nebraska goes down to Bloomington. And a lot of people are circling that game down there too.
Yeah, I am too. Yeah, that should be a fun one.
Yep. Because I know that's going to be a long weekend of football for me because I got the Purdue-Oregon game that Friday night and then the Nebraska IU game the next day.
There's a layer of teams that I'm very intrigued by, and Indiana's one, Nebraska's one. Those are some teams that I'm intrigued by. How good are they?
Yeah. And also Illinois. But you said Illinois is double digit.
Yes.
You said Illinois is a double-digit dog against Penn State?
19.
If I was to bet, I would take Illinois in the points.
You and a lot of other people.
Mm-hmm. Not bad. Because something gives me, are we going to have another 18-16 game, 8 overtime game with that baby?
I would bet against it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. I'm thinking maybe a 20-17 game, but who knows? Okay. Because right, I think Michael. All right. Yes. I was just wondering stuff like that. All right,
sir.
Just get some sleep and get ready for a long day of football tomorrow.
Thank you, Michael. Appreciate you being here.
Good. Yep. Oh, last thing to the people down and be affected by Hurricane Helene, my thoughts and prayers with you guys. Stay safe and everything will work out at the end.
That was an excellent sentiment at the end of the call there by Michael. So I failed to acknowledge that, and I kind of lived through it myself, although the fringe of it. So I certainly did not get battered and beaten like a lot of people did with 150-mile-per-hour winds. I was more in the 80-mile-an-hour gust range, and it was bad enough here, but it wasn't anywhere close to the folks on that. This is a new term for me, the Florida Bend. It's what it's called, the Bend, which is the portion of the state where the Panhandle meets the rest of the state, the main portion, foundation of the state around that bend around Tallahassee, and then on into Georgia, North Carolina. Wow, just a devastating storm. So yes, our thoughts and prayers go out to everyone that could have been affected. Before we take Corey's call, I got to pick off these super chats. Let's do it. Kenson says, Mark has spoken. Thank you for that, Kenson. Kenson, anytime I need you, Just let people know that, yes, I have spoken, therefore that's the truth. Matthew Miller, how many teams in the SEC or the Big Ten would you take to win the ACC? Oh, that's a great one. To win the ACC, Ohio State wins the ACC. Michigan wins the ACC. Penn State wins the ACC. USC wins the ACC. Iowa might win the ACC. Would love to see if maybe Nebraska or Illinois or somebody like that could take a run at it. SEC, Tennessee wins the SEC. Alabama wins the ACC. Georgia, Texas win the ACC. LSU, they could possibly win the ACC. Why not? Missouri could win the ACC, could win the ACC. Maybe I'm missing somebody else. There you go. Ban Miami from the playoffs, total frauds. Now, let's be fair here, folks. I don't think Miami was actually calling the game themselves. This is like the morons from the Miami fan base who get on me from time to time, or just in general rant and rave and get all out of control about the Ohio State Fiesta Bowl win that won the national championship and a possible their disgruntled behavior over the pass interference call, like Ohio State had anything to do with it. Because if you ask the typical Miami fan, who do you hate? They hate Ohio State. Why do you hate Ohio State? Because we got ripped off in a national championship game is their answer. What did Ohio State have to do with that? Nothing. They do not officiate the game. The teams do not. This is not pickup basketball. The teams do not officiate the games. So let's not get on Miami. They did not officiate the game. Okay. And I don't know that they're total frauds just because they messed around with a marginal football team. Virginia Tech's like the 45th best football team in America. SEC football, do you think Tennessee can compete with Georgia, Texas, Bama, and win the SEC and win the national title? I'll put them at the outside of that periphery of teams, that level. I will put them on the periphery of teams that could win a national championship. I don't think they've got a deep enough roster to deal with those three consistently until further notice. You know, like in this situation with Tennessee, very much to the 2022 situation with Tennessee, where we saw them exposed against a tremendous Georgia team. All right, now we got Corey on the line. Corey, what's going on?
Well, first of all,
Yes.
I got to clear up something here. I don't know what all the vitriol from the fake MVP was all about. I mean, look, I don't have any. I was actually giving him a compliment. I think you need to award him with his own show. You got Kentucky Ole Miss up on the screen right now. I think he could start with tomorrow. He can do a post-game show for Rebels in Kentucky, and you can get your Ole Miss gal to host that with him. And those two can bring home the bacon. And hey, look, the only reason I'm calling him to fake MVP is just like calling Cowherd that anointed Iowa as the fake idea of college football until someone else took their place. I'm just waiting for somebody else to take on that role of being the fake MVP, and then he'll no longer be referred to as such. And hey, here's the deal, Mark. Here's a guy who used to call into my show all the time, and I don't hear from him anymore. He's graduated on from my show.
Well, I don't know what he's graduated on to, but because he's always been here. But I will say I'm still unclear as to what he needs to do to rid himself of this title that you've given him.
I don't even remember what it was. Do you remember? You don't remember what it was, but something happened that we awarded him. I awarded him that title, and like I said, I don't even know. I don't even know what it was. I will say this, and I just want to make this very clear. I was on a bye week. I'm not. I've been very disconnected. We've been kind of dealing with some stuff this week. And anyways, not to bore you, but basically, I am curious to get your take on the impact of Ohio State, Michigan State tomorrow as it relates to just being able to schedule-wise, transition back to another home game before they go out to Eugene. I think it's a very interesting stretch for the Buckeyes, but I do think you're being a little bit unfair to Cade. I know it's, we live in this world of these grandiose statements and, these generalizations and whatnot. And
I don't live in that world.
Well, I think you succumbed to it a little bit here a little bit ago. And
what did I say that was not accurate or at least reasonable?
First of all, I want to preface this by saying, you know how I feel about the Sullivan-McNamara battle.
Yeah, we pretty much have agreed.
Yeah, we have agreed on that. However, for you to say he is not a good quarterback.
He's not a good quarterback.
I think that's unfair. I don't think that's a fair statement, and I don't think you can make it. I don't think listen, based upon what it. Well, you make it all you want. But
this is what I'm basing it on, Corey. This is what I'm basing it on. If you were just stating, is he a good quarterback in a vacuum, meaning we're just judging his ability to run an offense, make throws. Yes, he can capably play the position in big time college football. He's done it for a full season plus. The one full season he did it capably. The other, what are we working on now? 8 games that he's played other than that full season at Michigan. Okay. But we are comparing him to other people, other quarterbacks that play the position more capably. So against his competition, no, he's not a good quarterback.
Here's the deal. The problem is, here's the problem. The problem is you can't really evaluate him based on last year because he was hurt. Okay. And the year before that, he didn't play, right? He got hurt and didn't play. J.J. McCarthy beat him out. The year before that, he was good. He was the definition of good for Michigan, regardless of what was around him. And don't act like you're going to come back and say, well, I guarantee you, if we rewind the tape 3 years ago, you were not on this show saying Cade McNamara was not a good quarterback. If it ever got brought up, I guarantee you would have said he's a good quarterback. You wouldn't have said he's not good just because he wasn't some grandiose playmaker. Yeah, he's not, he's not Nico. He's not a lot of these guys, but
sure.
I just, language is very powerful.
It is. And I am very careful to use the proper language and the language that I intend. Now, like you, we talk a lot on these channels for umpteen hours a week. Me as much, if not more than you.
Don't be showing stats here. Don't be showing stats.
There we
Come
go.
on. Hold on. Don't be showing player stats. First of all, that's dumb.
Stats.
First of all, it's a dumb way of going about this. You and I both know that. It is a dumb way of going about this, and you and I both know that.
It's not a dumb way to go about
Iowa
it.
has the leading rusher in the Big Ten. Don't go down this rabbit hole. You don't want to go down there. They have the leading rusher in the Big Ten.
It shows my point.
It doesn't show your point. They have the leading rusher in the Big Ten. They have according to the numbers, let's look up rush offense.
Okay.
Why would you
want had the leading rusher in the Big Ten and still had the best quarterback in the Big Ten?
Oh, okay. So let's look at the best team in the Big Ten and one of the best programs year to year in the country and compare the situations. You and I both know that's not apples to apples.
I'm countering that just because it can be done. You can have an elite quarterback and an elite running game, both.
However, when the pieces around your quarterback, specifically at skill position spots like receiver, are behind, and you've got an exceptional offensive line that's blocking for an exceptional running back who's a Doak Walker Award winner and right now is a leading rusher in the country.
Yep.
Why on earth would you be stat seeking? You're not.
Absolutely.
They threw the ball 19 times against Minnesota on the road in spite of being behind at halftime. And let me remind you something else, Mark. And Tim Lester brought this up in his press conference. And I know it sounds like I'm here's trying to defend Cade. Honestly, as you go back and watch that game back, 11 of 19, there were at least 3 outright drops. Tim brought it up in the press conference. This is the case with any offense and any quarterback and any coordinator. but Tim brought it up midweek. 3 drops. You also had at least 2 plays where the route was ran wrong. And what Tim said is the ball was thrown right on time, right on target, where it was supposed to be. The route was ran wrong. And then there was the only sack of the game. Tim said that was a horrific call on my part. And the only thing we would have liked him to get the ball out quicker so that the sack didn't get taken. But that's totally on me. So the way Tim Lester, who I think you have a lot of respect for as it relates to evaluating quarterback play, unlike previous people who were doing this at Iowa. You look at that from that perspective, he was like 11 to 13. He's like 11 to 13. So 62 yards doesn't tell me anything. You're looking at passer rating, but that's impacted by yardage.
Passer rating is also
impacted by yardage.
Compilation stat. I'm not looking at like total yards. I would never do that to him. But passer rating is about efficiency and effectiveness.
Sure,
and
but
it's only one stat. It's not the end all be all. I'm not putting it up there as this is the number 1 guy, the number 2 guy. It's just I'm just putting up the stats. Let's do this. Let's go through every quarterback in the Big Ten, and you tell me
we can do that. You did it earlier. We can do it,
and I will tell you who I will take.
All right,
Drew Aller, Cade McNamara.
Aller.
Curtis Rourke, Cade McNamara.
Rourke.
Okay. And I'll even say with some of these guys, it's a toss-up.
No, I'm not going to be, believe me, this is not some huge bias on my part. Keep going.
Okay. Dylan Gabriel, Cade McNamara.
Gabriel.
Will Howard, Cade McNamara.
Howard.
Will Rogers, Cade McNamara.
Rogers, although I've not been impressed with him. I'd still take him. I've not been impressed with that offense.
75%, 8 touchdowns, no picks.
No, I'm still taking him, but I'm just saying that I don't know that he's led them any better than Cade has led his team.
Luke Altmaier, Cade McNamara.
I think it's a lot closer than it was made out to be earlier, but I'll take Altmaier based on how he's played in some big games this year. And I'm not ignoring the stats. His stats are at 172 passer rating. He's 71%. That's really good.
10 touchdowns, no picks. And these guys all have more ability. It's not just statistical. They have better ability.
Yeah, and I just want to point something out. You look at all those guys ahead of him. The only guy that I see with less, let's see, how many guys with less attempts? Actually, there's more than 102. That's actually surprising to me. But, yeah, I mean, Cade's 63%. That's a pretty good number based upon recent results from that offense. Yeah. But we're not judging Cade versus previous quarterbacks. We're judging them based on the rest of the Big Ten. I haven't watched Billy Edwards more than a few snaps this year. I know his name got brought up, and I really haven't watched Callie McManus. Obviously, Rutgers was pretty good tonight, but
and I even said that I would lean toward McNamara over Billy Edwards, but he's off to a nice start. 75%, 8 touchdowns, 2 picks, and that includes a Michigan State game.
Let's just jump the gun here, Mark. I would take Cade. I'd likely take Cade over Brosmer, Van Dyke, Garbers, Childs, Warren, Locke, and anybody who's playing at Northwestern. So that's still probably bottom half, but I mean,
so
yeah, bottom half. Sure, I'll agree with you. Well, you I think said you could find maybe 2 or 3 guys that were worse than Cade. I just named at least 6.
Whoa.
I mean, you disagree with that estimation? Tyler Van Dyke hasn't been very good.
Go back here. You're okay. Over the Northwestern quarterbacks, you can't put Locke and Van Dyke. They're one quarterback together. They're the Wisconsin quarterbacks. So you'll take Cade McNamara over the Northwestern quarterbacks, the Wisconsin quarterbacks.
Yeah.
The Aiden Childs at Michigan State.
Mm-hmm.
Ethan Garbers at UCLA. That's 4. And Max Brosmer with Minnesota. 5.
And I guess Edwards, again, I haven't seen him, but you said earlier you thought so. That would be 6. Here's the deal. As it relates to Cade, I want to go back to my original point regarding the run game, because the completion percentages are fine. The pass per attempt number is very low, and obviously yardage is going to be low. Those two stats are associated with one another. Touchdown count is low, but you know what? Honestly, interception count is really low. I mean, Aiden Giles has got 7 picks on the season.
Yeah, and he's also
Davis,
just starting his career.
well, not really. He came from Oregon State and
he
wasn't
was
playing.
not the starting quarterback. He
Well,
is
that's
just starting
his
his
problem.
career.
Yeah, that's his problem, though.
Starting his career.
Well,
and
so
and let's say we'll go with your 6 quarterbacks or 6 quarterbacked teams below McNamara. I'm not putting in a poor quarterback conference, I'm not putting the 12th best quarterback in the league as a good quarterback.
yeah, I mean that we could debate that all day long as well, because are we good? I mean, good compared to if you have to be upper half of the Big Ten to be good. I think Matthew's point is solid. I think there's a lot of mediocre quarterbacks, and I don't think there's a lot of separation between even some of the guys like Callaway Manis and Altmaier. I don't think frankly, you and I have talked about what's his face, Will Howard. His job is pretty easy right now, right? Would you disagree with that?
It is easy right now, and it's relatively easy compared to other quarterbacks, but based on what's expected of him, it's not going to be real easy when he's got to beat Alabama and Georgia or Texas or whomever else in a row in December and January.
I think the people I've been impressed with most, and I don't have time to watch probably as much as a lot of people in the chat do, but the people that I've been impressed with the most, Penn State struggled, but obviously Drew Aller's numbers are really good. But this kid from Indiana that I really didn't know anything about, he's probably the guy that, I mean, obviously Indiana's the biggest surprise to this point in what Cignetti's done. But yeah, I mean, if you're middle third of the Big Ten, Mark, of one of the 2 best conferences in college football at any level, yeah, that's good. That's you're probably a good quarterback to be in that place. Now, good again depends on your definition of good. Are we comparing it to the rest of the conference?
Yeah. But I will also underline, though, that just because you play in the second best conference doesn't mean you play in a collection of the second best quarterbacks.
And I just want to highlight one other thing to keep in mind if people are going to bring this up. Touchdown counts low. He'd probably have a couple more touchdowns if they had stuck with him in the red zone. But they had one game where they struggled in the red zone, and they take him out every time they get down into scoring territory. They remove him from the game now, and they bring in Brendan Sullivan. So, and I do think having a rushing game like Iowa's had, which they've not had in a long time, having a rush game like they have right now changes almost every one of the stats that's on the screen, with the exception maybe being completion percentage shouldn't be impacted. If anything, it should be positively impacted. But yardage is going to be impacted. Touchdowns is going to be impacted. Even average pass per attempt is going to be impacted, because why take risks down the field? Tim talked about that during his press conference this week. Why take these big risks? He had a couple of deep balls dialed up this week, and you and I talked about this Tuesday, and he was voted down during the game because, hey, first of all, why show them when you have Ohio State on the schedule next? And second of all, you're controlling the game. Hey, they outscored Minnesota 24-0 in the second half without doing anything in the passing game. So I just think it's hard to evaluate Cade collectively to this point, more so than a lot of the guys on this list who have been in a position where they've had to showcase their talents, or in some cases, maybe lack thereof. I don't think Cade's really been called upon at all to do anything. And that's reflected by his per attempt numbers, because again, his completion percentage is good. His per attempt numbers are down. What does that tell you? Either he's checking down a lot or he's not being asked to throw the ball downfield very much. And I don't think that's because he can't. I think it's because they don't need to.
Our buddy Matthew Miller is going with Aiden Childs over Cade McNamara.
Well, that's great.
He's a more
Yeah.
talented player, but he throws the ball to the other team, so that's not what you want.
Yeah,
your
he's got
quarterback
seven.
doing.
He's got 7 interceptions and a 54% completion percentage. So appreciate that comment. However, I don't know that holds much of any water. He's got some of the worst stats in this. I'm honestly, again, I don't know exactly the formula to generate passer rating, but he's got one of the what? He's got like the worst as a full-time starter. He's got the worst completion percentage in the conference. Am I reading that correct?
Probably
54%, and
Yeah.
we're just starting Big Ten play. That's like Deacon Hill-esque. Now his per attempt numbers are decent, but man, 7 picks to this point.
Well, they did play Maryland and Boston College, so they played 2 decent teams.
Sure, yeah, as has Iowa. I mean, I guess a lot of teams at this point you've played 2 Power Fours.
Yeah, the Northwestern quarterbacks are bad.
So, Mark, one thing I know you're probably trying to get to bed here. Can you address my question at the outset? Just tell me the importance of Ohio State and just not just how they look against Michigan State tomorrow night. I know people really aren't talking about that game because there's plenty of other big games to discuss, but just having the Iowa game, one home game sandwiched between, a former rivalry. I'd call it Ohio State, Michigan State a rivalry, at least in the last decade. It certainly has been. On the road at night somewhere, then you have Iowa, then you go on the road to Eugene. I just think it's an interesting, obviously unprecedented in this conference because of Oregon's joining and the fact that they have to travel out west. But I do think the makeup of that paired with the fact that Iowa is on a bye right now makes this sort of interesting.
Unless I'm missing something, it's been since 2016 that Michigan State gave Ohio State any kind of game. Like, they have completely annihilated them every
So
year.
What does Aiden try? Yeah, I'm assuming you'd probably say Ohio State's got the best defense in the country. So what does
they haven't played like it. They didn't play like it last week. So jury's still out, but they certainly
or at least in the conference
to be. I don't know. Iowa, Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State. I still want to see those 4 teams play defense in conference games. So I wouldn't say that for sure, but they're probably the most talented defense. No, but we started to delve into this, you and I, on the Iowa show last week, because it is an intriguing setup for Iowa that Ohio State and the wear and tear of the Iowa game may prove to be difficult for them to rebound from against, let's say, Oregon. Iowa could take the brunt of it, and then it may pay off for Oregon, or it may pay off for Iowa in 2 weeks because they do have to go on the road for the first time. And Michigan State is better than they've been for a few years. They're better than I expected, most people expected. They were supposed to get trampled by Maryland. They were a heavy favorite, or a substantial underdog against Boston College as well. And they've proven to be a pretty decent football team. So it's not going to be, I know it's a 24-point spread, but I don't think it's going to be just some walkover where it's 31-0 at half and load up the buses. I think this could go into the fourth quarter as still a football game that's going to wear on Ohio State versus Iowa being completely fresh physically and mentally and from a preparation standpoint. Sure.
And my one challenge on what Darrell said earlier, I commented in the chat, but I don't agree with the representation that Iowa's defense has taken a step back like the Iowa offense has taken a step forward. Like, to me, you can't equate going from 130th in total offense to whatever they're at right now, top 70, whatever it is, compared to, I think you said earlier, and these aren't exact numbers, but say they were a top 5 offense defense last year, and now they're top 15. Like, okay, there's a small step back, but those 2 steps forward/back are not equivalent. And I still don't think, as we talked about Tuesday, there's any real evidence that tells us that Iowa's defense has taken a step back, given the fact that they had very similar struggles in the non-conference last year. They gave up 2 drives to Minnesota and then completely shut them down in the second half on the road, first true road game. So obviously Ohio State will be the biggest test, not only to this point, but of the season. and they gave up, even with a really good defensive performance 2 years ago in Columbus, they gave up 50-some points. So, I mean, if they come out and give that team a chance, they give the offense a chance to make a play or two in the fourth quarter, then I would say the offense is probably taking a big step forward during the bye week. But that's kind of what they did a year ago when they were struggling and giving up big plays. And like I said, I don't even remember who they played early in non-conference last year. I think Michigan State. They played a couple of really weak opponents, with the exception being Penn State. They didn't give up a single explosive play, as I recall, against Penn State on the road in spite of losing 31-0. So, by the way, you got a couple of weird people in the chat, Mark. These people that are just they don't like any controversial statements, or I don't know what I don't know what to make of some
stirring up in the chat.
I don't know. I'm not reading through all these people, but these people that are apparently, the term living in your head rent free. Apparently I did that earlier with a couple of my comments, so wouldn't be the first time. Anyways,
Certainly not.
All right, Mark. Well, appreciate you stopping by. Anything else before I let you go?
We do appreciate it, Corey. It's always good to hear from you. We want to let everyone know before Corey jumps off that he's got an amazing channel from the Hawkeye of the Storm. Put it in your search right here on YouTube to track Iowa athletics and, of course, football first and foremost this time of year. And then the no post game, of course, Iowa's got to buy. When is the next time you're going live?
We'll actually have a show with Coach Patterson Monday evening, so we'll be live taking comments and chats and questions Monday evening as we count down the days to Ohio State. We'll be releasing a podcast, kind of a bye-week podcast here in the next couple of days as well. So, yeah, should be fun, and still kind of debating whether or not I should make it over to the team down south. Should I make it over to Buckeye Stadium, Mark? Is that something I should prioritize?
That would be phenomenal. What do I need to do to, and don't tell me get you tickets, because I've attempted that.
What about a $1,000? What about $1,000 check? That'll cover my flight. That'll cover the tickets. That would be great, Mark.
If we can get super chats, let's start the campaign tonight.
I'll tell you what, if somebody donates $1,000 either to this show for that reason or over on my show and says, hey, this is for Columbus, I will make that happen. Barring some complete emergency, that will happen.
So, folks, the best way to do that is either contribute directly to Corey or, again, Venmo, PayPal, and Cash App. You bypass the whole YouTube situation, and we get all the money. We get Corey to Columbus, and he does a pregame show for us, because we'll let you do your regular postgame show, but we get him for a pregame and a halftime hit.
I don't know what that will look like. I don't know what exactly logistically that would look like, Mark. Pregame, halftime, I don't know. But hey, if we get the donations, we'll have a meeting and we'll figure out exactly how to go about that. So,
and absolutely. If we get it up to 950, folks, I'll throw in the final 50. How about that?
Well, remember, if it's a super chat, we prefer donation, because if it's a super chat, it's really like 600. If you donate 950, it's really like 600 after YouTube takes their. YouTube is a impoverished brand, Mark. They, give to YouTube. They need all the support they can get. It's a dying brand,
YouTube shut down one of our channels this week, our Indiana channel. Fortunately, we had like 3 subscribers, and we didn't get to do anything there. They hit us up for deceptive content, spam, or possible, one of those type of statements. And I disputed it. I explained, I've got like 40 channels. They're all football analysis. It's very easy to discern, and we reviewed it and you're fine. One of those deals.
So do you know exactly what triggered that?
No, I don't. I don't even know what's on there. You know me. I don't even know what's going on half these channels.
You have an Indiana contributor?
We do now.
Okay. All right.
Our buddy Jeffrey Johnson.
Oh, yeah. All right. I forgot.
to do some Indiana work for us. Indiana show. We've got an Indiana show starting. We've got a Rutgers show starting.
Wow. Is that your guy in the chat? I see your guy in the chat. Keep chopping. Is that him doing
We've got Rutgers starting here soon. We will announce that soon.
Okay.
And of course, the Ole Miss show that you alluded to a few minutes ago. I take that one on myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good stuff. And who does Indiana have tomorrow?
Maryland.
Yeah, that should be a fun one.
Yeah. We'll see if they
could be a lot of points scored in that game.
Yeah, I could see that.
I would not be shocked to see that game played in the 70s or 80s.
If you could have any result of any game turn out the way you want it to, what game would that be that you could fix?
Tomorrow?
Yes.
It's a great question. I mean, I think this Ohio State game is so big on Iowa's, not just because it's the next game, but just because of the early loss to Iowa State. I think I'd have to think about it in terms of what would be best for. I think if they went to East Lansing tomorrow and batter rammed the Spartans, which they might do, that might be the best result. I think the worst result is that they either lose.
You're wasting the power I've given you, Corey.
Well,
here are the Ohio State scores against Michigan State since 2017. 48-3, 26-6.
Then I'm going to be a happy man tomorrow night.
10, 52-12.
Yeah, I'm going to be a happy man tomorrow night if that happens.
7, 38-3.
I have a feeling it'll be closer than that. Even though I just got done trashing Childs, I think Michigan State, new leader. This is a different Michigan State team. Totally, it's a different program now, right? Been a lot. I mean, a couple of those results. I don't know what years you were reading, but you talked about 2016. D'Antonio left in what, 2018?
19 was his last
2019. So some of those were under D'Antonio, some of them were under Tucker. Yeah. This is a different program now. I'll be interested to see the impact on that series because now Michigan State's coming off a win.
They lost to Boston College on an Aiden Childs interception in the end zone.
Yeah, they shouldn't have lost, correct? If I recall it.
They outplayed Boston College. Yes, they did.
So it'll be interesting to see how they respond. And I just think the night game atmosphere. Did you see I don't know if this was legit. I haven't been on social media much over the last 2 days. Did you see the Signetti text message that apparently was sent out to like every student on campus about packing the stadium and how we need your support? But apparently what I saw was actually, maybe it was fake, but there was actually a text message from his phone number. So I can't imagine that he used his actual phone number. And it was, what was the last part of it? It was some odd, maybe somebody in the chat knows what I'm talking about, but he made some really strange statement at the end about revitalizing the program. And I mean, hey, I guess if you have a start like they've had, that allows you to say kind of what you want. And, it's pathetic. You've probably seen some of those pictures of the crowds. I mean, it's amazing that you have a team that's had as much success with flying colors for them to not have not just student representation, but just fans in the stadium for a Big Ten school. It's just really sad, especially when you look at how successful that athletic department has been. I mean, they are blue blood in college basketball, as you know. So it's not like the state of Indiana's Bloomington's a great college town. So I'm kind of rooting for him. I think he's a good coach, and I like to see those stories of guys that quickly turn around programs. And hey, talk about Iowa's schedule. We talked preseason about how favorable it is. How about the teams that now I label as dark horses or surprises in the Big Ten? Top of the list has to be Illinois. Second place has to be Indiana. Third is Rutgers, and none of those teams are on Iowa's schedule. Like even after we evaluated Iowa's schedule, we were like, well, nobody looks to be that good. even the three teams in the conference that we didn't think were going to be good, even those teams aren't on the Iowa schedule.
Yeah.
So
before you take off on us, two quick things. I'm disappointed that when I gave you that power to secure one game, I would have thought you would have thrown that to your buddy Brett Bielema going to Happy Valley and winning a big upset at Penn State.
Yeah, that'll be one. Absolutely. Yeah. I don't know if he's my buddy, but I got a lot of respect for Brett, and I don't think real highly of James Franklin. You know that, and
I love your rivalries within the Big Ten. You've got Penn State. You don't like Penn State. You don't like Michigan, and now USC. Add them to the list. Those three. You don't like PJ Fleck. You don't like Minnesota.
I actually like Ryan Day. Okay. I didn't love Ryan Day's little thing with Lou Holtz. I thought that was kind of stupid and childish. But
it was.
But it takes two to tango, as I said earlier in the show. So yeah, we got to do one of those shows. Nobody's gonna care, but can we do one of those shows where I rank my least favorite opponents?
Oh, that would be great. We need
least favorite programs in the conference.
Yes, we'll do that.
And honestly, you missed a big one. I don't really care much for the Bald Eagle up north. Iowa's team up north. Recalls Michigan team up north. How about the Bald Eagle that Iowa just beat?
Oh, Minnesota. I said that. I said PJ Fleck, Minnesota.
Oh, did you? Well, let's see. James Franklin, Michigan, USC. Those are the three teams I heard. So yeah, Minnesota added into the list.
Said PJ Fleck.
Yeah. And I actually had a lot of respect for Mel Tucker prior to everything that happened. And can I ask you, where is that lawsuit at? There is an ongoing lawsuit with that, isn't there?
I don't know.
It's amazing how the guy is no longer at Michigan State, and so we don't hear anything about it.
And he's got $1 zillion. And
is he coaching? Is he an analyst somewhere? Is he doing anything?
I don't think so. I don't want to hear from the guy. He's a clown.
Now, can I ask you why you say that?
I
know there's allegations, but
yeah, he didn't necessarily. I don't want to get into it right now. I really don't want to get into it.
It's only 2:00 in the morning. I mean, what's the problem?
I don't want to. I think he, in some ways, got hung out to dry.
Yep.
Like there's a difference between doing something that's morally questionable and all those things, and maybe not even questionable. That's being kind versus doing something that's legally wrong or against the guidelines of your job description and being set up, all those things involved as well. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I think anybody with a brain and a conscience will say that what happened, regardless of who is telling the truth, what happened is a complete degradation of good morals and ethics.
Sure. Absolutely. So, now, the last thing I wanted to keep you on here for was concerning, once in a while we dive into a music conversation, and I don't know what started here. I think it was a Rutgers that turned into New Jersey, that turned into Bruce Springsteen's from New Jersey, and then Matthew Miller posted, unfortunately, Bruce Springsteen sucks. I think he spelled his name wrong. I don't think he's Jewish. I don't think it's Bruce Springsteen. But anyway, Bruce Springsteen sucks. So what do you think about that?
I don't care about Bruce Springsteen. I know like 2 of Iowa's 3 coaches like that. I think maybe I'm wrong on that. I know it's Kirk Ferentz's favorite artist is Bruce Springsteen. Right. And I want to say maybe Fran McCaffrey for men's basketball. I've never been a Bruce Springsteen fan. I mean, that goes back kind of before my era anyways.
Sure.
But there are people that I really like go back into even the 60s and 70s. But no, sure. I've never been a big Bruce Springsteen. I'm guessing you're not a big Springsteen fan either.
I'm not a big fan. I like him. He's one of my 10 favorite artists of all time.
Yeah, it's kind of like how I view Dave Matthews. Like, I don't get the hype. I never really have understood that.
Well, I just said he's one of my 10 favorite of all time.
Well, yes.
But
he definitely wouldn't be on mine.
the guy cannot sing.
Yeah, and you know how I feel about Stevie Nicks. We've had this discussion
Oh,
before.
my word.
We've talked about.
And now Matthew's going crazy, saying, "Mark, what?" You gotta understand, Matthew, that my favorite. There is a drop from like the sun to planet Earth from 1 to 2 for me. Yes, Bruce Springsteen can't sing, but there are other people who can't sing, even though I'm a big vocalist guy. Bruce Springsteen can't sing. Bob Dylan can't sing. Yeah,
Real quick,
Stevie Nicks can't sing.
Don't name anymore. Let's real quickly rattle off our top 5 famous artists of all time who really can't sing. And I think number 1 has to be John Lennon. All right, I'm going to put John Lennon at number 1. That'll make a lot of people upset.
Ooh,
John Lennon's number 1. Stevie Nicks has to be right there, number 2 or 3. Bruce Springsteen has to be on that list. You mentioned Bob Dylan's fabulous song. He's kind of like John Lennon, right? Like his music is. I've heard it's again equated to Lennon. I've heard renditions of Imagine that are just absolutely incredible, and I understand why the song was so popular. But I've heard renditions of so many Bob Dylan songs where I'm like, man, this song is great. Why couldn't this person have done it in the first? But I got respect for the singer-songwriter in these guys. Who's number 5? That's 4. Would you agree with 4 of the 5?
I think John Lennon can sing. He can carry a tune.
He can carry a tune, but he's not a. Do you realize
he's no vocalist? No.
No.
Yeah, we're talking about great no, John Lennon is not a great vocalist by any stretch of the imagination. No. Yeah, I'm on board with your list. Yes, Bob Dylan is horrible vocalist.
Who would you put? Who's the 5th guy that they were not? There's somebody we missed there.
You have a more eclectic music knowledge and library than I do. So
well, that doesn't go nearly as far back as yours does. But
no, but horrible.
I could name some people in the modern day that can't sing very well.
I never got Tony Bennett. I don't get that. Not that he's horrible, and I don't dislike the guy. He seems like a very nice gentleman, but I don't.
I know a lot of people that don't. I know a lot of people that don't like Elton John's voice at all. But I think he can sing. I mean, I don't. Sure.
Yes,
I can't listen to him and say he doesn't have a good voice. He's got a good voice. Barry Manilow.
I'm okay with all those people. Yeah.
Are you a Willie Nelson fan?
He has a very distinct voice.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll have to think about number 5.
Oh man. Let me. You know who I don't like. I just don't like this guy. I'm not saying he's not talented. Sinatra. No, not on my list. I don't like Sinatra.
I mean, I think there's a difference too with this conversation. I could come up with a million guys I don't like, but that doesn't mean I think they can't sing. I mean, you could never claim that Sinatra can't sing.
No. All right. I guess I'll leave it at that. I've been keeping Sean on the line here for a long time.
And let me just say one more thing here. Final thing that we talk about, Taylor Swift. She
can sing. She's not a great vocalist. She's not exactly Whitney Houston or Beyonce, but she can sing.
She can sing. She's a great performer, and she's very, very. What's the word? How do you? She's Beatlesque, right? Like how do you? Because I don't think any of the Beatles were that.
No,
I've never understood the Beatles thing. I just never have. My wife was a big Beatles fan growing up, and she didn't grow up in that era, but
no,
I've never understood them.
Taylor Swift, I'll put her in the Madonna category. Like I think Madonna's a better singer in her prime than Taylor Swift, though. I would like to hear Taylor Swift live. My daughter has gone to see Taylor Swift a few times. She loves Taylor Swift. My daughter actually was trying to get me to go to a Pink concert with her.
Pink's got a great voice.
I love Pink. I do really enjoy her music.
And you know who else?
10.
You know who else has an amazing voice is Lady Gaga. Like I think she's one of the best modern day vocalists out there.
I was just out with somebody tonight who brought up Lady Gaga being some amazing performer, and I was like, sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've been to a lot of concerts. I've never seen her live. I don't navigate to a ton of her new music, but I mean, she can sing everything. She got a new song with Bruno Mars. That's talk about vocal talent. Those two people together. And I do want to say regarding music, I know a few months ago everybody was going nuts over this Ingrid Andress meltdown at the was it the Home Run Derby? Country singer
yes, that was
that completely botched
Yep.
her performance. And I just want to say, I saw Ingrid Andress a year ago at the Iowa State Fair.
Okay.
And she was really good. And I don't believe that she was just auto-tuned. It was not one of those concerts where I don't know how you, yeah, and I'm certainly not any producer, but I can't imagine that what we were hearing was auto-tuned. I mean, she was so bad at the Derby. And then I know she posted that she was checking herself into rehab and that she was just drunk that day, which makes me think, well, first of all, fire your manager. Whoever let you go out there and do that night.
Yeah.
Wasn't keeping a good enough eye on you or had some other prerogative. But
this is what I don't understand, though. I think that and I had no idea who this individual was. But anyway, if you take a great vocalist and then you expose them to alcohol and they get drunk, don't they still remain a great vocalist?
I don't know. I mean, it takes effort to be. It takes effort to sing, right?
I don't think that you become tone deaf. She was like tone deaf, like.
Well, unless she was just so drunk that it was just like she kind of forgot how to say. I mean, right? Like you forget kind of. You're unable to walk when you're real drunk. You're unable to do a lot of things. Maybe she.
Yeah, could be.
That'd be like saying somebody who's. What do you think? Let me ask you this: what do you think Usain Bolt would be like if he was completely drunk? Would he still be able to run?
We're talking about somebody who needs their motor skills in a different way.
Yeah, I know, but you get my illustration. Like,
yeah, I do.
I wouldn't expect Usain Bolt to be able to probably walk if he was completely, just because he's a great runner.
Yeah,
he might not be able to walk.
Never been intoxicated to the point that I could relate
well,
to being completely.
No, I'm not. No, I haven't either. But if Ingrid Andress is checking herself into rehab, then either that's a big PR thing or she's literally got a big problem that needs fixed. So
with all the responses in the chat, I think we should talk music more often.
How many people have logged off?
We're sitting at, I don't know what the Twitter ratio is. I think I put this on Twitter. It's at 390, so I have no idea what the ratio is. It's about
pretty
holding
good.
Steady where it was.
Okay, it's almost 2:30 a.m. on the East Coast, right?
Yeah. I could also start a political show, certainly. Yeah, I've often said that. People would. I'd probably gain a following, but then I don't know how many people would turn their back on me.
It's a give and take, right? All right, Mark. Well, I'll let you get on to bigger and better callers and the fake MVP. I love you. It's not my choice that moniker has to stick, but I have to be just with my decisions. So don't be a stranger to the show, Dural MVP. So, anyways, all right, Mark. Have fun tomorrow.
You too. Thanks. All right, one last call. And yes, Adam, to dream the impossible dream. Yes, I won't try to sing that one like the king, but it's a great one. Yes, 72 Madison Square Garden. Absolutely. Sorry, Sean.
Hey, no problem. No problem. I've thoroughly enjoyed all your conversations.
Good. I was enjoying these conversations, so we kept going.
Absolutely. I must include two glaring omissions from these great singers who can't sing conversation. Neil Young, great.
Oh yes,
great songwriter.
Yes,
I've listened to almost his whole everything he's ever done many times. And Leonard Cohen, also. I don't know how familiar you are with him.
I'm not. I've heard the name.
Oh yeah. So yeah, yes. Two great songwriters who performed a lot of their own music and couldn't carry a tune real well, but the music was so good it overrid that.
So while you lead us into football,
yeah,
I'm going to. So man, I don't know how I'm going to be able to. I'm not going to be able to do this, so I'm not going to play the video because I'll get nailed for copyright. But since you brought up Neil Young,
yeah,
and since this guy is my all-time favorite by, like he did a tribute to Elvis, and there's a video, and I think I found
oh
it.
wow,
It's
I'm sure I've never seen this.
This song is great. It's a great, and whoever put together the video with like film clips and everything, it's a great song.
All right, I've got a bookmark that here. Let me get on my other device here and make sure that I have that saved.
It's amazing how many people. Yeah, I do believe that that's the version I'm looking for. Yeah, I believe it is. Yeah, I'm looking at the. I when I watched this for the first time, I had to watch it like 5 times because I thought it was so cool. But yeah, a lot of people have written their. Johnny Cash wrote 2 songs about Elvis. But anyway, football, or whatever you want to talk about at this point.
So I wanted to talk a little bit earlier about some of the calls some of the decisions that were buzzing a little bit of controversy earlier in the evening about the Virginia Tech decision. One of which was their decision to fake that field goal, late in the third quarter.
Yes.
And I mean, I look at that and I think that was almost like a really good spot for them to fake a field goal. I don't fault the decision in that spot at all. I actually think like taking a field goal in that spot would have been a bad decision. It was 4th and 3, and sorry, excuse me a second. It was, I mean, they had a chance to go up by 3 scores. They're late in the third quarter. So I'm so sorry.
That's all right. Well, apparently, So this was at 34-24.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was. Yeah. So it was pretty late in the game, and the chance to go up by 3 scores in that spot. Like, I mean, I thought that was like a fairly standard decision. I thought that wouldn't have. I thought that kicking the field goal would have been a bad decision, but it's pretty standard. Like that's kind of what you expect a staff to do. So it's a good time to try a fake right there. Like the difference between having a 10 and a 13-point lead is significant, but it's not that amazing. But going up 3 scores at that point in the game would have been like almost backbreaking. So it's.
But then the choice becomes, if you're committed to that, and I totally get it, that 13 is not a big deal. That although you are forcing 2 touchdowns rather than just 2 scores, but I get the let's take it to 3. So then it becomes, do I have more confidence in my quarterback and my offense to get the 3 yards, or to trick them and put the ball into somebody's hands that doesn't normally tote it?
Yeah, but that's always the decision every time you try to fake a field goal, right? I mean, like you count on the idea of deception being like so countervailing that even the skill of the players, isn't that big of a factor. Like, it's still the right decision to make because they're so unlikely to see it coming, I guess. And I mean, like almost everyone kicks the field goal in that spot, and I think it's wrong decision. But I mean, like I think that's just the standard. I think people expect, okay, they're just going to line up and kick it in this spot, and if you miss it and you're still up by 10, as opposed to being up by 13, it's not that big of a loss. I mean, it's something. I mean, like obviously there's a difference between being up by a touchdown and a field goal and being up by 2 touchdowns. But I mean,
no, I don't have an issue with your reasoning. Again, I think it just comes down to, do we trust the offense and the quarterback, or do we trust our ability to pull off some kind of play that we practice once a week?
Right. And, absolutely. And I think if coaches caught up to the analytics, that would just be a standard kind of like you go for it in this situation spot, and then you just run a play.
Yeah, probably.
Right. Yeah. So it's not. So I have zero. I mean, it's one of those. It's just they get criticized for it because it didn't work.
Sure.
Well,
there's probably also of course, there's a threshold to that analytical play as well. Meaning, is it 4th and 3, or is it 4th and 7, or 4th and 8?
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. For sure. For sure. You don't run a shovel pass on a 4th and 10 there. I mean, like, it's just, there's too many chances for things to go wrong in that spot. But, 4th and 3, like, it's just like, okay, if you catch them off guard, it works, and you get a first down, and you can potentially go up by 3 scores. I thought it was a good play call. I applauded Brett Pry for making that decision. It was a good call. I thought it was a good decision, and it didn't work. And that's the way it goes sometimes. A lot of times. So and the other one, the ending decision right there, I thought the officials got it right. I thought the review got it right there, and it took a couple of different camera angles to kind of piece it together. It was like there was not one shot that definitively showed that he didn't really have possession of it, but there were 2 different shots that I saw. Like, one was from like straight on, and one was an end zone view that kind of had. I mean, it was kind of showing it from the I don't know, kind of like you're looking at kind of sort of southwest from the camera angle right there, and it was just, I mean, if you piece the 2 shots together, you could kind of clearly see that the receiver never really had possession of the ball because they kind of overlap. Where one, there was a lot of obstruction on both sides, but they kind of perfectly complemented each other. So yeah, the moments where you could see from one angle, like what was happening, but you couldn't see the rest of the play. You could see it from the other angle, what was happening on the rest of the play. You know what I'm saying? And I thought if you piece those 2 together, and that's why I object to, as Will was saying, like, if it takes that long to determine it was indisputable, like, how can it be indisputable? I'm like, there were a lot of bodies in the way there. Like, you have to kind of like look at multiple different camera angles to this to kind of piece together what was happening on that play. And then I thought they arrived at the right decision. Like, it was pretty indisputable to me that Felton, that receiver from Virginia Tech, never had firm possession of the ball.
Well, see, that's the thing. Did anybody get up with the football in their hands?
Yes. The Miami defender got up with it at the very end, but that's irrelevant. Like, I mean, anybody can just pick the ball up off the ground and run around and say,
sure. Yeah, to me, I don't know if you heard my take at the beginning. This is the best I could determine what the call was and why it was what it was, and it justified the final decision. Maybe not that it should have been overturned, but justified that if you just said, was this a catch or not a catch, is that if a player, meaning this defender, has somewhat control of the ball, at least the ball's on him while he's laying out of bounds, then the play's dead. So for the ball to be taken out of his hands, even though it has yet to hit the ground, it would almost be similar to a pass being thrown along the sideline. And if a defender leaped up, caught the ball, and came down out of bounds, and simultaneously the offensive player ripped the ball out of his hands as soon as he hit the ground, they would have just stolen the ball from a player who was out of bounds.
Yeah,
so he would have been dead.
Yeah, I mean, like that's one of those nebulous situations that I think the rules commissions have gotten much better at litigating over the years. I mean, like they've sort of defined like when a play is dead and like, you know, if someone has it. You know, I was just going to say I saw when I watched that play, I was like, you know, no matter how they rule on this, they're going to get crucified for it. I mean, there's not going to be a way that's going to like satisfy people. And a lot of the same people that are crucifying them for this decision that they made would crucify them the other way. I don't know. Like there's some sort of, I think a lot of people have kind of just a hobby at just crucifying officials over these decisions. I listened to like Michael Hogue's rant a week ago on this, and I, like officials are obviously not above criticism. They're not, but I sympathize with them in all these spots because when was the last time you ever heard like just thunderous applause nationwide for an officiating call that was ever made? Like, oh my God, that's a marvelous piece of officiating. Oh my God, that's, you know, it's, you know.
Well, I see it in a sense from both sides. The first one is that I tend to sympathize with the officials because I couldn't stand on a football field with 22 guys flying by me constantly.
Oh my God,
from all directions, and figure out, whether there's some ball juggling around on the sideline, somebody grabs it. Were they in bounds? What happened? Where should it be spotted? Like all those things. Like I would be completely. Was that targeting? Was that a fumble? Was that a hold? Was that all these things would just be even like pass interference? Most of the time, I'd be like, "What did I just see? Did I see what I think I saw? I don't know if I did." So I would be a horrible official. Number one, but number two, that doesn't mean. So, for example, if somebody criticized me and said, "Mark, you're a horrible host," that doesn't mean that they should be held accountable or to the standard that they could come on here and do better than me.
No.
I could still be bad at my job, and other people could criticize me and not be as good at my job as me.
Right, because then we could never criticize like our public officials, like our government or anything like that. Because you know, who among us could go in to be like a sanitation commissioner tomorrow and know what we're doing?
Okay, I don't completely agree with that on some levels, but I get your point.
Yeah,
who out of us could go and officiate, pick your college football game tomorrow and just show up and be better than them? Obviously, none of us. They're better than all of us right now. So yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah.
In terms of public officials, I don't know. I tend to think that there are some smart people out there that would be better politicians.
But I'm saying, like, even if you're not equipped to do the job, that doesn't mean you're not.
Yes,
you have no grounds to criticize other people who hold the job.
Yes,
that's it. I mean,
yes.
You know. I mean, I don't think I wouldn't trust many people I know to be president of the United States. Does that mean like they should never have a judgment on who should be on anything, a decisions a president makes?
Absolutely.
No, of course not. It's ridiculous. But no, so yeah. So that was a very it's got what an interesting. I kind of felt like this was going to be a really interesting group of Friday games. I didn't, or it was just two really tonight, right? There wasn't any like Sun Belt game that I missed or anything tonight, was there?
This was it.
Yep. Yeah. So Yeah, Rutgers-Washington. I think we always knew they would meet as conference rivals at some point, and that was, yeah. I mean, Rutgers, is just a team. I don't know. I guess are they just kind of like mid right now, and then that's about as good as they're going to get?
Yes.
Yeah,
I agree. But if our other game would have been Texas State and Louisiana Monroe, then we would be talking about Rutgers, even though it wasn't nearly as entertaining, winning on the last play of the game, because they would be undefeated, which they are.
Right. Yeah, and in Washington, I mean, I guess Jed Fish is doing the best with what he can right now. I mean, I'm kind of impressed. I mean, like, no team has any team changed more from one year to the next.
No, that's what I've claimed all off season, that this has been unprecedented. New head coach, new coaching staff, new quarterback, depending on your count, either 20 or 21 out of 22 starters.
Yeah.
And then if that doesn't make the cut, a different conference. So I guarantee that's never all happened.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder what Washington fans are feeling or going through, what they're even expecting from this season right now. It's just, so so two great entertaining games. I don't know that there's that many, although I did want to make 1 point. I don't know if there's ever been a game this big that's been this underhyped or undersold as Georgia-Bama tomorrow. Like it doesn't feel like there's been any buzz around this game at all. And this is number 2 versus number 5, number 4, something like that in the country. And these are two monumentally like alpha programs in the country. They border each other. And I mean, like, I watched the sports networks this week, and like, I haven't heard it really mentioned at all this week, like any sort of buzz towards this game. And I'll be tuned into it tomorrow night. I'll be watching the Michigan State Ohio State game for obvious reasons, primarily at the same time. But I mean, like, have you ever seen a game like this? Like a game this big that's as undersold as this is?
No, I agree with you. And maybe ABC and Disney is not selling it as well as CBS has sold these mammoth SEC games in the past. Yeah, when it's been Bama, Georgia in the past, or it's been Bama, LSU when LSU was worth a damn and they could match Bama. Yeah, those have been just these games that everybody just talked about, and it's must see, and it's game of the century type talk. Yeah, I'm not getting that either, but I don't think that takes away from the game. I don't know if some of that has to do with the playoff situation.
Yeah. Oh, definitely, because both of these teams are still very viable.
Yeah.
No matter the outcome of this game, which some people may see as a detriment, I kind of see as a plus. I mean, like, I don't think one loss should kill you in the grand scheme of things.
Now, Kentucky upset Georgia. I
mean, this would be a do or die game probably for Georgia, because they probably, they would.
Not completely, but
no, but they would have no margin for error the rest of the way.
Yeah, then there are 2 losses, and they still have to go to Ole Miss, and they still have to go to Texas and play Tennessee. Yeah.
So it's I mean, it is kind of an interesting dynamic towards the new era of college football. So I'll be very excited. Do you have a lean on the game either way right now? Because I'm kind of leaning Georgia, because I mean, like, everyone's pissing on them because the last the last thing they saw was that Kentucky game.
Sure.
You know,
Yeah, people should
and that's
not be-
maybe the only thing most people have seen from Georgia this year.
Sure. Yeah.
Mhm.
I will be getting off here and making predictions because I got to get those to our Patreon folks. So yes, I will be doing that as soon as we get done here. So
Awesome.
for sure.
Awesome. I just want to get your take on one other game because it's of keen interest to me. I had the BYU Baylor game tomorrow. I have a rather large wager on Billy Napier being the first coach being fired
Oh, okay.
this year.
Yeah.
Do you think Dave Aranda's job might be on the line in that one?
What's Baylor's record? 2-2?
Yep.
What are they? Yeah, 2-2. They lost it. No, they haven't lost any. Who'd they play last week? Can't remember. Oh, they lost the Hail Mary game.
Yep.
To Colorado. So they're 0-1 already in the Big
Mhm.
12.
Yep.
Well, they played within 11 points of Utah, and they lost a Hail Mary game to Colorado. So I don't think they're really underachieving by much. I don't think he's going to get fired at this point.
You think he can survive another week?
Yeah.
All right. All right. Cool. That's all the reassurance I needed here, Mark.
That's my lean on it.
Hey, you have a great night, and I will make sure I get on that Neil Young tribute to Elvis immediately when I get off the air.
I believe I gave you the right one. That's got the the old clips and everything. It's cool. He wrote this really cool song. I enjoyed it, and he had the really cool female backup singers. He put together a nice little tune.
All right. Well, I'm sure I'll enjoy it regardless. You have a great college football weekend, Mark, and everyone else in college VOCFB Nation.
Appreciate it.
And make sure to tune in to After Dark on Sunday night.
That's right. Yeah. Thanks, Sean.
Take care.
All right. Voice of College Football, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays at 10 a.m. Eastern Time, and then Thursday and Fridays post-game after the game, like you see right now, right here at the Voice of College Football. Last up is Amazon link. It's in the description section of all the videos. If you grab the Amazon link, I am telling you folks, when you shop on Amazon, use that link. I did this the other night. I'm not going to do it tonight. I screenshotted. I grabbed the Amazon link. I went to it. As soon as I put it in the URL, I used that as my site. It recognized me. Boom. Hello, Mark. So you don't lose anything. So please use the Amazon link. For every dollar you spend at Amazon, you're going to send us 3, 4, 5 cents instead of sending that to Amazon. Why should Amazon get all of that? Send some to the Voice of College Football. So please use the Amazon link. It's in the description section. It says Amazon in caps. Grab that link. Thank you so much for doing that. I'll be here with instant analysis throughout the day on Saturday. And of course, we'll do the post-game show. So expect Michigan, Minnesota, and probably Kentucky, Ole Miss instant analysis after the noon window. And then we'll proceed throughout the day. All right. Appreciate you being here at the Voice of College Football, and we will see you on Saturday night.